Welcome back, guys. This is Potter Fanfic Hub. Here we explore powerful Harry Potter what-if stories and hidden magic. What if Harry Potter was reborn to conquer the wizarding world? If you enjoy epic magical videos, subscribe to Potter Fanfic Hub. Now, let the story begin. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Shouldn't Exist. The sky above Hogwarts had never looked so wrong. Harry Potter lay on the cold stone floor of the Great Hall, his chest barely rising, his emerald eyes staring at nothing. The ceiling above him, enchanted to show the heavens, was a swirl of black and crimson, clouds bleeding into one another like wounds in the fabric of reality itself. Somewhere, he could hear screaming. Somewhere, people were crying his name. But he couldn't move. The killing curse had taken something from him, not his life, not entirely, but something deeper. Something essential. He could feel it slipping away like water through cupped hands, and with every passing second, the edges of his vision grew darker, narrower, until all that remained was a tiny pinprick of light. And then, nothing. The darkness was absolute. No warmth. No cold. No sensation of any kind. Just, presence. A vast, infinite emptiness that somehow felt more real than anything Harry had ever experienced. You have died, Harry Potter. The voice didn't come from anywhere. It simply existed, like a thought that wasn't his own, resonating through every atom of his being. Harry tried to speak, but he had no mouth. Tried to move, but he had no body. He was just consciousness floating in an endless void, and somehow, impossibly, he knew this was real. This was what came after. I am what your kind might call a cosmic force. An ancient consciousness that exists beyond the boundaries of time and space. I have watched you, Harry Potter. I have watched all of them, *. The voice was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was ancient beyond comprehension, patient as mountains, eternal as stars. You are not the first I have offered this choice to. You will not be the last. But you are, unique, *. Images flashed through Harry's mind, his life, from the beginning to the end. The cupboard under the stairs. His first glimpse of the wizarding world. Hagrid, Hermione, Ron. The Triwizard Tournament. Sirius falling through the veil. Dumbledore dying on that tower. The endless, grinding war that had consumed his entire adolescence. You were manipulated from the moment you entered that world. A pawn in a game you didn't understand, played by wizards who saw you as a tool. Dumbledore shaped you into a weapon. Voldemort made you his enemy. And destiny bound you to a path you never chose, *. The images shifted. Harry saw himself as others had seen him, the brave Gryffindor, the chosen one, the sacrificial lamb led to slaughter. He saw Dumbledore's twinkling eyes, behind which hid a chess master's calculations. He saw Voldemort's serpentine face, twisted with contempt and fear. You could move on, Harry Potter. You could find peace. The afterlife awaits you, your mother, your father, everyone you've lost. You could rest, *. Harry felt something then, a stirring in the emptiness, a spark of defiance that refused to be extinguished. Or, the voice continued, and there was something almost like amusement in its tone, *. You could return. You could go back to the beginning, to the moment of your rebirth, with every memory of your first life intact. You could start again, knowing everything you know now. You could rewrite your story, *. The darkness around Harry seemed to pulse, and for the first time, he saw something, a faint glow, like distant starlight, taking shape in the void. It was a door. A simple wooden door, the kind you might find in any ordinary house, except this one was made of light. This is your choice, Harry Potter. But understand this, if you choose to return, you will not be the same boy who died today. The knowledge of your first life will change you. It will make you harder, colder, more calculating. You will never be able to see the world the same way again. You will lose something, innocence, perhaps. Trust. The ability to believe in the goodness of others without question. The door pulsed with light, and suddenly Harry could see beyond it, glimpses of a life he could live. He saw himself as a baby, cradled in his mother's arms. He saw the Dursleys, their faces twisted with suspicion and fear. He saw Hogwarts, but this time he wasn't a child walking through its doors for the first time. He was a master strategist, a hidden power, a force that would reshape the wizarding world. I offer you a second chance, Harry Potter. A chance to live your life on your own terms. To be the architect of your own destiny, not a piece on someone else's chessboard. What do you choose? Harry didn't hesitate. Take me back. The world exploded into sensation. Light, blinding, overwhelming light, flooded Harry's vision. He felt pressure, warmth, the sensation of being held. Someone was crying. Someone was laughing. Voices swirled around him like water, incomprehensible and beautiful. You will remember everything. Every moment, every lesson, every loss. Use it wisely, Harry Potter. And remember, the world you return to is not the world you left. Your choice has changed things. Small ripples, at first, but they will grow. The path ahead is not the one you walked before. You must forge a new one. The voice faded, and Harry's consciousness slipped into something deeper, a sleep so profound that it was almost death. But this time, it was the sleep of the newborn, the rest that came before life truly began. And when he woke, he was a baby. The Dursleys' house at number 4, Privet Drive was exactly as Harry remembered it. He lay in his cot in the smallest bedroom, staring up at the ceiling with eyes that were far too aware for a child his age. His body was tiny, helpless, utterly dependent, but his mind was a fortress of memories, a treasure trove of knowledge that spanned 17 years of magical education, political maneuvering, and brutal warfare. The first time around, I was helpless. I was angry and scared and confused, and I let other people tell me who I was supposed to be. Not this time. This time, I know exactly who I am and what I want. The Dursleys were exactly as he remembered them. Uncle Vernon was loud and boorish, his face perpetually purple with rage. Aunt Petunia was thin and horse-faced, her lips permanently pursed in disapproval. Dudley was a spoiled terror, already developing the bulk that would make him a bully in his childhood. But Harry saw them differently now. He saw the fear beneath Vernon's anger, the insecurity beneath Petunia's disdain. They were small people living small lives, terrified of anything that didn't fit their narrow worldview. They weren't villains, they were just pathetic. And pathetic people, Harry had learned, were easy to manipulate. The first year was about survival. Harry's body was still developing, still learning to crawl and walk and speak. But while his muscles were weak, his magic was not. The wandless magic he had struggled to master in his previous life came easily now, not because he was more powerful, but because he understood it better. He could feel the magic flowing through him like a second heartbeat, and he knew exactly how to use it. When Vernon left him in the garden for hours, Harry summoned warmth with a thought. When Petunia forgot to feed him, food appeared in his crib. When Dudley threw toys at him, the toys stopped mid-air and floated gently to the ground. The Dursleys noticed, of course. They weren't stupid enough to miss the strange things happening around the baby. But they were terrified of the truth, terrified of what it meant, terrified of the world it represented. So they pretended not to see. They told themselves it was coincidence, imagination, anything but the truth. Harry let them believe it. He knew that the time would come when he would need their fear, but that time wasn't now. For now, he was content to wait and watch. The first time around, I believed in fairy tales. I believed that the Dursleys were the only bad people in the world, and that Hogwarts would be perfect, and that Dumbledore was a kindly grandfather figure who had my best interests at heart. I was wrong about all of it. This time, I know better, asterisk. Harry spent his days and nights planning. He mapped out the next 6 years of his life, identifying the key moments that would shape his destiny. He thought about the Philosopher's Stone, the Chamber of Secrets, the Goblet of Fire, all the challenges that had been thrown at him, all the tests of courage and loyalty that had been engineered to shape him into the perfect weapon. Asterisk, the Philosopher's Stone was a trap. Dumbledore knew Voldemort would try to steal it, and he set everything up so I would be the one to face him. He tested my courage, my loyalty, my willingness to sacrifice myself. And I passed. I passed every test he gave me, and he used that to shape me into exactly what he needed, asterisk. Harry felt a cold anger building in his chest. It was a strange feeling, this anger, not hot and impulsive like the rage he'd felt in his youth, but cold and controlled, a weapon he could wield. Asterisk, this time, the tests won't go the way Dumbledore expects. This time, I'm not a pawn on his board. I'm a player in my own right, asterisk. By the time Harry was 2, he had mastered the art of appearing ordinary. He smiled when he was supposed to smile, cried when it was convenient, and toddled around the Dursleys' house like any other child. But behind his innocent eyes, his mind was a whirlwind of calculations. Asterisk, I need allies. Goblins, first and foremost. They have the power to control the magical economy, and they resent the Ministry's control. If I can earn their loyalty, I'll have access to resources no one expects. The Potter family vaults, there are things in them that even the goblins don't fully understand, asterisk. He thought about the ancient bloodline inheritances he had discovered in his previous life, the old magic that ran through the veins of the ancient families, the forgotten vaults that held knowledge and artifacts from a time when wizards had been truly powerful. Asterisk, the Potter family is old. Older than the Ministry, older than Hogwarts. There are things in those vaults that could change everything, rituals, artifacts, knowledge that has been lost for centuries. The goblins would have been keeping them safe for generations, waiting for the right heir to claim them, asterisk. Harry's fingers twitched, and a small flame flickered in his palm before disappearing. He was getting stronger. Every day, his magic grew more precise, more controlled. By the time he reached Hogwarts, he would be more powerful than any student in the school's history, and if his calculations were correct, more powerful than most of the professors. Asterisk, but power alone won't be enough. I need influence. I need to build a network of loyalty that spans every faction in magical Britain. Purebloods, half-bloods, muggleborns, goblins, creatures, everyone who's been excluded from power, everyone who's been overlooked. I'll build an empire, and I'll rule it with an iron fist wrapped in velvet gloves, asterisk. The summer before Harry turned 3, something changed. It was subtle at first, a coldness in the air, a presence that seemed to hover at the edges of his awareness. Harry woke one night to find the room darker than it should be, the shadows deeper and more alive than any night should allow. Someone's watching me. He couldn't see anyone, but he could feel them, a presence that felt ancient and powerful, like the cosmic force that had offered him his second chance. But this presence was different. This presence was hungry. Harry's tiny fingers gripped the edge of his crib as he stared into the darkness. His heart was beating faster, but his mind was calm. Analytical. He had faced worse than this. He had faced Voldemort, had looked death in the eye more times than he could count. The shadows began to move. They twisted and writhed, forming shapes that were almost human, almost animal, almost something else. Harry watched as they coalesced into a single figure, tall and gaunt, with eyes that burned like embers in a dying fire. You are an interesting one, Harry Potter. The voice was dry and rasping, like dead leaves rustling in the wind. Harry's blood ran cold, but he kept his expression steady. He didn't know this being, couldn't place it in the vast catalogue of magical creatures he'd studied over his lifetimes. Don't bother trying to identify me, the figure said, its lips curling into something like a smile. I am not a creature, or a wizard, or anything else your world has seen before. I am a watcher. A guardian of the balance. What do you want? Harry's voice was steady, a feat impressive for a toddler. The figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Courageous, even now. Yes, I can see why they chose you. The cosmic force that sent you here, it made a mistake, you know. It thought it was giving you a second chance to save the world. But I see more. I see what you're becoming. Harry's eyes narrowed. What I'm becoming? Something different. Something the world hasn't seen in 1,000 years. You aren't just a boy who wants to save his friends. You're a boy who wants to conquer. You want to rule. And you have the intelligence, the drive, and the power to do it. The figure stepped closer, and Harry could see its face now, a face that seemed to shift and change, reflecting the faces of every person he'd ever known. I could stop you, you know. I could end your second chance right here, before you do any damage to the natural order. But that would be boring. Instead, I'm going to give you a warning. What warning? The figure's eyes blazed with sudden intensity. You're not the only one who was given a second chance. The cosmic force that sent you back, it sent others as well. Enemies you haven't faced yet. Obstacles you didn't anticipate. The path you're walking is not the same path you walked before. Everything has changed. Harry's mind raced, cataloging the implications. Who else was sent back? The figure laughed again. Now that would be telling, wouldn't it? Suffice it to say, Harry Potter, that you will face challenges in this life that you never could have imagined in your first. The war you survived was just a skirmish compared to what's coming. The shadows began to dissipate, the figure fading like mist in the morning sun. One more thing, the voice said, barely a whisper now. You think you can control everything. You think you can plan for every contingency. But there are forces in this world, and beyond it, that cannot be predicted. The moment you think you have mastered destiny, is the moment you lose everything. And then the presence was gone. Harry sat in his crib, heart pounding, mind racing with possibilities. The warning echoed in his thoughts, a promise of challenges yet to come. Others were sent back. Others who will try to stop me. Who? Voldemort? Dumbledore? Someone I haven't even met yet, asterisk. He took a deep breath and steadied his racing heart. It didn't matter who else had been sent back. It didn't matter what obstacles lay ahead. He had been given a second chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. I'll face them all. I'll overcome every challenge. And when I'm done, the wizarding world will be mine, The next few years passed in a blur of training and preparation. Harry's magical core grew stronger with each passing day. He practiced wandless magic constantly, honing his skills until he could perform feats that would have impressed the greatest wizards of the age. He studied occlumency, learning to build walls in his mind that no one could breach, not Dumbledore, not Voldemort, not anyone. But his true focus was on his body. A baby's body was weak, but it was also malleable. Harry pushed himself to grow faster, move faster, think faster than any child his age had ever done. He studied the Dursleys, learning their routines, their weaknesses, their fears. And he began to plan. By the time I'm old enough to go to Hogwarts, I'll have everything I need. The Dursleys will be under my control, the goblins will be my allies, and I'll have access to resources no one expects. The wizarding world doesn't know what's coming, The first step of his plan was the easiest. The Dursleys, for all their bluster, were terrified of magic. They were terrified of anything that didn't fit into their narrow, ordinary world. And Harry knew exactly how to use that fear. When he was 4, he confronted them. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. The Dursleys were in the living room, Vernon reading the newspaper and Petunia watching some insipid program on the telly. Dudley was on the floor, surrounded by toys he was rapidly breaking. Harry walked into the room and stood in front of the television. Petunia looked at him with that expression of mingled fear and disgust that she'd worn since he'd arrived. "Move, boy. We're watching this." Harry didn't move. He looked at her with eyes that were far too old, far too knowing. "I'm not a boy," he said, his voice calm and measured. "I'm Harry Potter. And I have something to say to you." Vernon looked up from his newspaper, his face beginning to turn purple. "Now see here." "See here, indeed." Harry's voice cut through Vernon's bluster like a knife. "I know what you think of me. I know you've been afraid of me since the day I arrived on your doorstep. And I know you've been trying to stamp the magic out of me." Petunia's face went pale. Vernon's went even purpler. "Magic is not something you can stamp out," Harry continued. "It's part of who I am. Part of what I will become. And you have a choice to make." "A choice?" Vernon sputtered. "What choice?" "The choice to cooperate with me," Harry said, "or to suffer." He let his magic flare, just a little, just enough to make the lights flicker and the shadows dance. Petunia screamed. Vernon grabbed Dudley and pulled him close. What are you?" "I'm going to grow up to be very powerful," Harry said. "More powerful than anyone in the wizarding world has ever been. And when that happens, I will remember how you treated me. I will remember everything." He let the implication hang in the air. "So here's the deal," he said. "You will treat me with respect. You will give me my own room. You will feed me properly. And in return, I will not destroy you." Vernon opened his mouth to protest, but Harry held up a finger. The lights flickered again. "Do we have an understanding?" The Dursleys looked at him, terror in their eyes. And slowly, reluctantly, they nodded. The next few years were a campaign of subtle domination. Harry didn't need to be overtly cruel to control the Dursleys. He simply made their lives easier when they cooperated and more difficult when they didn't. When Vernon had a difficult day at work, Harry made sure the sale went through. When Petunia struggled with the housework, Harry helped, if only to demonstrate that he was watching. They grew to depend on him. They grew to fear him. And Harry grew to understand something important about power. Power isn't about fear. Not really. It's about control. It's about making people believe that they need you, that they can't survive without you. Fear is just the beginning. Loyalty comes later. By the time he was 6, Harry had a plan that stretched years into the future. He knew exactly how he would enter Hogwarts, how he would build his network, how he would take control of the wizarding world. He had mapped out every step of his ascent, from the first whisper of influence to the final moment of triumph. But something bothered him. Something from that night when the Watcher had visited him. Others were sent back. Enemies I haven't faced yet. Who? And what do they want? It was a question without an answer, and it gnawed at him. He had planned for every contingency he could imagine, but what if the contingencies were beyond his imagination? What if there were forces at work that even the cosmic force couldn't predict? I'll deal with them when they come. Whatever they are, wherever they come from, I'll deal with them. I've faced worse than anything they can throw at me. I've faced death itself, But even as he thought it, a cold knot of fear formed in his stomach. A voice in the back of his mind whispered that he was wrong, that there were things in this world, in the vast, infinite multiverse, that he could never prepare for. I'll be ready. I'll be ready for anything. This time, I won't be caught off guard. This time, I'll be the one in control, The day Harry turned 7, something changed in the wizarding world. He knew it was happening even before the news arrived. A faint ripple in the magical fabric of reality passed through the Dursleys' house, and Harry felt a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Something's happening. Something important, The letter arrived 3 days later. It was addressed to Harry in emerald green ink, the seal bearing the crest of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry recognized the script instantly. It was Dumbledore's hand, the same careful, elegant handwriting he'd seen on countless letters in his previous life. But this letter was different from the one he remembered. Instead of the usual invitation, the letter contained a single sentence. You are not alone. There are others who know what you are. They are watching, and they are waiting. Be careful, Harry Potter. Harry read the letter 3 times, his mind racing. This wasn't part of his plan. In his first life, the letter from Hogwarts had been straightforward, an invitation, a welcome into the magical world. This was something else entirely. Asterisk, they are watching. Who? Dumbledore? Or someone else? Someone who was also sent back, asterisk. He burned the letter and threw the ashes into the wind. He couldn't afford to leave evidence of anything that might connect him to the magical world. Not yet. Not until he was ready. Asterisk, but someone knows. Someone knows about me, knows what I am, knows what I'm planning. And they're warning me. Or threatening me. Or both, asterisk. Harry felt a cold smile spreading across his face. Asterisk, good. Let them watch. Let them see what I'm becoming. Let them try to stop me. I'll crush them all, asterisk. The next year passed in a blur of training and preparation. Harry pushed himself harder than ever, his magic growing stronger with each passing day. He practiced spells he'd learned in his previous life, mastering them with an ease that would have shocked any magical educator. He studied ancient texts, learning languages and rituals that had been forgotten for centuries. Asterisk, I'm almost ready. I know everything I need to know to take control. I just need to wait for the right moment, asterisk. But the waiting was difficult. Harry had always been impatient, had always wanted things to happen faster than they should. In his previous life, that impatience had been a weakness, something that his enemies had exploited. This time, he was determined to control it. Asterisk, patience. Strategy. Planning. These are the tools of victory, not reckless action. I'll wait until the moment is right, and then I'll strike, asterisk. And so he waited, building his power in secret, preparing for the day when he would finally take control of the wizarding world. The night before Harry's 11th birthday, the Watcher returned. Harry woke in the darkness to find the same shadowy figure standing at the foot of his bed. The ember eyes glowed in the darkness, watching him with a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been respect. You've grown strong, Harry Potter. Stronger than I expected. Harry sat up, his wand, a simple stick of wood he'd whittled himself, but one that channeled his magic effectively, ready in his hand. What do you want this time? The Watcher laughed, that same dry, rustling sound. I came to give you one last piece of advice. Tomorrow, you will enter the magical world as a child. But you are not a child. You are a weapon, forged by fate and sharpened by choice. Remember that. I know who I am, Harry said coldly. I don't need your advice. Don't you? The Watcher's eyes blazed with sudden intensity. Your plan is flawed, Harry Potter. You think you can control everything, that you've accounted for every variable. But you haven't accounted for the one thing that matters most. And what's that? The Watcher stepped closer, and for the first time, Harry could see something in its face, a glimmer of something that might have been pity. You haven't accounted for love. Harry's blood ran cold. Love? Love is what got me killed in my first life. Love is what made me sacrifice myself, what made me trust Dumbledore, what made me believe in fairy tales. Love is a weakness, and I've purged it from my heart. Have you? The Watcher's voice was soft, almost gentle. Then why are you still afraid of losing people? Why did you build walls around your heart if not to protect yourself from the pain of caring? I'm not, Harry started, but the Watcher raised a hand. You can't purge love from your heart, Harry Potter. It's not something you can control. It's something that exists beyond control, beyond strategy, beyond all your careful planning. And when it comes, and it will come, you will have to make a choice. What choice? The Watcher's form began to fade, dissolving into shadow like smoke in the wind. The choice between power and love. Between conquering and caring. Between ruling the world, and saving it. The last words echoed in the darkness, "You have power, Harry Potter. But do you have the wisdom to know how to use it?" And then the Watcher was gone. Harry sat in the darkness, his heart pounding in his chest. The Watcher's words had struck something deep inside him, something he had tried to bury with all his careful planning and cold strategy. Love is a weakness. It always has been. It made me trust Dumbledore when I should have been suspicious. It made me sacrifice myself for people who didn't deserve it. It made me believe in hope when there was none. He looked out the window at the stars, his face cold and impassive. Somewhere out there, hidden in the folds of reality, there were people who knew about him. People who might become his enemies. People who might try to stop him. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. But I know what I want. I want power. I want control. And I won't let anything, not love, not fear, not the gods themselves, stand in my way. He lay back in his bed and closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. The Watcher's final words echoed in his mind, a warning and a promise all at once. You have power, Harry Potter. But do you have the wisdom to know how to use it? I'll learn, Harry thought as the first light of dawn crept through the window. I'll learn how to use my power. And then I'll show them all what a true wizard can do. The sun rose over Privet Drive, and Harry Potter opened his eyes. He was 11 years old today, the age when his magical journey was supposed to begin. But in truth, his journey had begun long ago, in a void beyond time and space, when he had chosen to return and rewrite his destiny. Today was just the next step. Today, he would become the boy who would conquer the wizarding world. And somewhere, in a castle hidden from mortal eyes, an old man with twinkling blue eyes and silver-white hair sat alone in his office, staring at a glowing stone. Interesting, Albus Dumbledore murmured to himself. Very interesting indeed. He touched the stone, and images swirled in its depths, a boy with green eyes, a lightning bolt scar on his forehead, a destiny written in stars that were slowly beginning to change. The boy has changed, Dumbledore whispered. Something is different about him. Something powerful. A phoenix perched on the edge of his desk let out a soft, mournful cry. Yes, Fawkes. I know. The world is about to change. Dumbledore's eyes grew distant, troubled. And I'm not entirely sure it's a change I can predict. The office fell silent, the only sound the soft crackling of the fire and the distant, echoing beat of a phoenix's song. And in the darkness of the night, something ancient stirred, awakened by the ripples of Harry's choice. Something that had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for the moment when the balance of power would finally begin to shift. The Watcher was right. The world was about to change. And Harry Potter, the boy who shouldn't exist, was going to change it. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2, The Child Planning an Empire. The morning of Harry's 11th birthday dawned grey and oppressive, the kind of English morning that seemed to exist in a perpetual state of twilight. Rain pattered against the window of his new room, the smallest bedroom, yes, but his own, with a door that locked and a window that opened. The Dursleys had learned to give him space. Harry sat on the edge of his bed, his small legs dangling over the side, and reviewed his plan for the 1000th time. Today, Hagrid will come. He'll tell me I'm a wizard, take me to Diagon Alley, and set me on the path to Hogwarts. It happens exactly the same way it did before, or it should. But I'm not the same boy who followed Hagrid into the leaky cauldron. I know what's coming. I know what I need to do, He looked at his reflection in the dusty mirror on the wall. The face that looked back was familiar, the same unruly black hair, the same vivid green eyes, the same lightning bolt scar on his forehead. But there was something different about the eyes now. They were older. Colder, more calculating. They were the eyes of a strategist, not a child. Hagrid will be easy. He's loyal to Dumbledore, but he's also loyal to me. He sees me as the child of his friends, the boy who survived. He'll trust me, and I can use that trust. But I have to be careful. I can't let him see what I've become. Not yet, *. The clock on the wall ticked steadily toward 11. Harry had been waiting for this day for 11 years, had been planning and preparing for every possible contingency. But even with all his preparation, there was a knot of tension in his stomach that refused to go away. Something's different this time. The Watcher said so. Others were sent back. Enemies I haven't faced. I don't know who they are or what they want, but they're out there. I have to be ready, *. A loud knock on the front door echoed through the house. Harry heard Vernon's heavy footsteps, heard the door creak open, heard the gasp of horror that Vernon couldn't quite suppress. "Good morning. I'm looking for Harry Potter. Is he here?" Hagrid's voice. Exactly as Harry remembered it, loud, cheerful, booming with good-natured enthusiasm. Harry allowed himself a small smile. Here we go. The next hour played out almost exactly as Harry remembered. Hagrid burst through the door, his enormous frame barely fitting through the frame, his beard tangled and his coat covered in what looked suspiciously like dragon blood. Vernon tried to intimidate him and failed spectacularly. Hagrid revealed Harry's true heritage, handed him his Hogwarts letter, and practically vibrated with excitement. But Harry noticed something different this time. Something he'd missed in his first life. Hagrid was nervous. It was subtle, a slight tremor in his enormous hands, a flicker in his beetle-black eyes that suggested he was hiding something. Harry filed the observation away for later analysis. "A wizard, me?" Harry said, keeping his voice carefully innocent. He had to play the part, had to appear as the surprised, overwhelmed boy he'd been in his first life. I'm really a wizard." "Course you are, Harry." Hagrid beamed. "Best wizard I ever knew, after Dumbledore, oh, course. You've got it in your blood, you have. You'll be great, I know it." Harry nodded, his expression perfectly naive. Can you tell me more? About my parents? About what happened?" Hagrid's face clouded with sorrow. "Ah, Harry, it's a sad tale, it is. Your parents were great wizards, both of them. But you know who, he came after M.C. Killed them both, he did. But you survived. You're the boy who lived, Harry. Everyone knows your name." Yes, Harry thought, everyone knows my name. And they all want something from me. Dumbledore wants a weapon. The Ministry wants a symbol. Voldemort wants a victim. This time, I'll give them exactly what they deserve, *. But out loud, he said, "What happened to him? Do you know who?" "No one knows." Hagrid shrugged. "He just disappeared. Vanished. Everyone thought he was gone for good, but there's rumors, see. Rumors he's still out there, waiting. But you don't need to worry about that, Harry. You're safe now." Safe. "Yes. I'm going to make sure of that, *. Harry nodded again, his face the picture of innocence. "Can you take me to Diagon Alley? To get my school things?" Hagrid's face brightened. "Oh, course I can, Harry. That's why I'm here." "Come on, then, we've got a lot to do." The journey to Diagon Alley was as magical as Harry remembered, the leaky cauldron, the brick wall that opened into the bustling alley, the shops overflowing with cauldrons and robes and strange, wonderful creatures. Hagrid guided him through the chaos with the enthusiasm of a child in a candy shop, pointing out landmarks and explaining things with barely contained excitement. But Harry wasn't paying attention to the sights. He was watching. Asterisk, the leaky cauldron is crawling with informants. That old man in the corner, he's Ministry, I'd bet my wand on it. The woman with the cat, she's an Auror, trying to look harmless. Dumbledore has eyes everywhere, watching me, testing me. But I'll give them nothing to see, asterisk. Harry let Hagrid lead him to Gringotts, the white marble building that dominated the end of the alley. He remembered the goblins from his first life, the way they'd been treated as servants, as second-class citizens, even by the wizards who claimed to respect them. But Harry knew the truth, the goblins were the true power in magical Britain. They controlled the economy, the vaults, the flow of gold that made everything possible. And I need them on my side. Grip hook. Hagrid bellowed, waving at a goblin who was hurrying past. Grip hook, we've got business with the Potter vaults. The goblin stopped and turned, his eyes narrowing as he took in Hagrid's enormous form. We have an appointment. Not exactly, Hagrid admitted. But this here's Harry Potter, see? The boy who lived. He needs to access his vaults. Griphook's eyes flicked to Harry, and Harry saw something interesting in the goblin's expression, a flash of recognition that went beyond the normal curiosity about the famous boy who lived. Asterisk, he knows something. They know something. The goblins have been watching me too, asterisk. Harry stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. Griphook. I'd like to speak with you privately. There are matters I need to discuss, matters that go beyond a simple vault withdrawal. Griphook's eyes narrowed further. The boy who lived wishes to speak with a goblin. How unexpected. Unexpected, yes, Harry agreed. But I think you'll find it worthwhile. Hagrid looked confused. Harry, what are you? Just a moment, Hagrid. Harry held up a hand, his eyes never leaving Griphook's. I need to discuss something with the goblins. Something important. Hagrid opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. There was something in Harry's voice, something that brooked no argument. Something that made Hagrid feel, for the first time, that he was dealing with someone far older than the 11-year-old boy standing before him. Right then, Hagrid said slowly. I'll just wait here. Take your time, Harry. Harry nodded once and followed Griphook into the depths of Gringotts. The goblin's office was small and cramped, filled with papers and ledgers and strange mechanical devices that clicked and whirred. Griphook gestured for Harry to sit, then took his place behind a desk that was clearly designed for someone half his size. Now then, Mr. Potter. What is it you wish to discuss? Harry met the goblin's eyes without flinching. I know about the bloodline inheritances. I know about the vaults that have been sealed for centuries, waiting for the right heir to claim them. Griphook's expression didn't change, but Harry saw a flicker of something in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, or suspicion. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Harry's voice was calm, measured. The Potter family is old, older than the Ministry, older than Hogwarts. There are vaults that have been sealed since the time of Merlin, waiting for the heir who can unlock them. I am that heir, Griphook. And I want what's mine. The goblin stared at him for a long moment, and Harry could feel the weight of those ancient eyes trying to pierce through his defenses. But Harry's acclimacy was strong, stronger than anything the goblin could overcome. Interesting, Griphook said finally. You speak of things that no 11-year-old wizard should know. Things that even the most learned scholars in the wizarding world have forgotten. I know more than any wizard in Britain, Harry said quietly. I know about the Goblin Wars. I know about the treaties that were broken, the promises that were betrayed. I know why the goblins hate wizards, and why they've been waiting for someone who would treat them with the respect they deserve. Griphook's eyes widened. You know. I know everything, Harry said. And I'm offering you Something that no wizard has ever offered you before. An alliance. A partnership. I'm going to rule the wizarding world, Griphook. And when I do, the goblins will have their rightful place at the table. The goblin leaned back in his chair, studying Harry with new eyes. You speak of ruling the wizarding world as if it were a foregone conclusion. You are 11 years old. You have no army, no resources, no political allies. I have something better, Harry said. I have knowledge. I know what's going to happen. I know every move my enemies will make before they make it. And I know how to defeat them. It was a risk, revealing this much. But Harry had calculated the odds, and he knew the goblins could be trusted, not because they were loyal, but because they were pragmatic. They would ally with whoever offered them the best chance of success. You're asking a lot, Griphook said slowly. To trust a wizard, a potter, no less, is not something goblins do lightly. We have been betrayed too many times. I know, Harry said. And I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to watch me. Judge me by my actions, not my words. I'll prove to you that I'm different from the wizards who came before me. Griphook was silent for a long moment, his eyes never leaving Harry's face. Then, slowly, he nodded. I will take you to the Potter family vaults. You're right, there are vaults that have been sealed for centuries, waiting for the true heir. But I warn you, Mr. Potter, if you prove to be like the other wizards, if you betray us, the goblins will remember. We have long memories. And we are patient. Harry smiled, a cold, calculating smile that didn't reach his eyes. I wouldn't expect anything less. The vaults beneath Gringotts were vast, extending deep into the earth in a maze of tunnels that seemed to go on forever. Harry had seen them before, in his first life, but this time he noticed details he'd overlooked before, the ancient carvings on the walls, the faint traces of magic that pulsed through the very stone, the way the goblins who guided him moved with a reverence that bordered on worship. These vaults are more than just storage spaces. They're the heart of goblin civilization, the repository of all their knowledge and power. And the Potter vaults, they're something special, Griphook led him to a door that was unlike any Harry had seen before. It wasn't made of stone or metal or wood, it was made of light. Pure, brilliant light that pulsed and shimmered like a living thing. The Potter family vault, Griphook said quietly. Sealed by the first Potter, a wizard who was said to be descended from Merlin himself. It has not been opened in 1,000 years. How do I open it? Griphook looked at him, his eyes gleaming with something that might have been respect. The lock responds to the blood of the heir. Only a Potter can open it. And only one who knows what lies within. Harry nodded slowly. He'd felt the magic pulsing through the door, felt it reaching out to him, recognizing him. He stepped forward and held out his hand. Open, he commanded. The door responded instantly, the light folding back like curtains to reveal a chamber that was far larger than the outside would suggest. Harry stepped through, feeling the magic wash over him like a wave of pure energy. This is incredible. The chamber was filled with treasures, not gold and jewels, though there was plenty of that, but books. Thousands upon thousands of books, bound in leather and vellum and stranger materials, stacked on shelves that stretched up into darkness. And in the center of the room, on a pedestal of obsidian, lay a single object. Harry recognized it instantly. The wand of the first Potter, he breathed. It's been lost for 1,000 years. Griphook nodded slowly. The legend says that the first Potter was a wizard of unimaginable power, a master of all forms of magic. He created this wand himself, pouring his knowledge and his soul into it. It was said to be the most powerful wand in existence, more powerful even than the Elder Wand. Harry walked toward the pedestal, drawn by a force that felt almost magnetic. The wand was beautiful, made of a dark wood that gleamed like polished obsidian, with intricate carvings that seemed to shift and move in the light. Touch it, and it will be yours, Griphook said. But be warned, only the true heir can wield it. Anyone else who tries will be destroyed. Harry didn't hesitate. He reached out and grasped the wand. The moment his fingers closed around the wood, Harry felt a surge of power that nearly knocked him off his feet. The wand recognized him, knew him, welcomed him with a warmth that felt almost like a hug. And in that moment, Harry understood. This wand is more than just a tool. It's a legacy. A link to every Potter who came before me. And it's mine, He raised the wand and felt the magic flow through him, more powerful than anything he'd ever experienced. The wand was attuned to his very soul, channeling his power with a precision and efficiency that no ordinary wand could match. Remarkable, Griphook murmured. In all my centuries, I have never seen such a perfect match. Harry smiled. This is just the beginning. The next hour was spent exploring the vault. Harry discovered more than just books and treasure. He found artifacts that had been lost for centuries, spells that had been forbidden since the time of the founders, knowledge that had been carefully hidden from the wizarding world for generations. The Potters were more than just a noble family. They were guardians, protectors of knowledge that the Ministry and the purebloods wanted to suppress. And I've been given access to all of it, He found a tome on wandless magic that made the exercises he'd been practicing for years look like child's play. He found a grimoire on soul magic that explained things even Dumbledore had never understood. He found scrolls on blood magic. Ancient magic, rune magic, every form of magical knowledge that had been lost or forbidden. I'm going to master all of it. Every single discipline. By the time I'm done, I'll be the most powerful wizard in existence, more powerful than Dumbledore, more powerful than Voldemort, more powerful than anyone in the history of magic, But the most valuable find was not a book or an artifact. It was a key. Harry found it in a small box hidden beneath a stack of ancient texts. It was a simple key, brass, unadorned, unremarkable in every way. But when Harry held it, he felt a sense of connection, of belonging, that he'd never experienced before. What is this? He asked Griphook. The goblin's eyes widened. I don't know. I've never seen it before. But I can feel its power. It's something ancient. Something older than this vault, older than Gringotts itself. Harry studied the key, trying to understand its purpose. It felt important, critical, even, but he couldn't figure out what it was supposed to open. I'll figure it out later. For now, I need to focus on the immediate tasks. Diagon Alley, the supplies, Hogwarts. Everything else can wait, He tucked the key safely into his pocket and turned back to the books. The shopping trip was a blur of activity. Hagrid was practically bouncing with excitement as they visited shop after shop, buying everything Harry would need for his first year at Hogwarts. Harry played his part perfectly, the innocent, overwhelmed boy seeing the magical world for the first time. He made sure to seem suitably impressed by the wonders around him, to ask the right questions, to appear exactly as everyone expected him to appear. But in the back of his mind, he was cataloging everything. Ollivanders is a fascinating place. The old man knows more about wand lore than anyone alive, and he's been watching me. He knows something. I need to be careful around him, The wand Ollivander gave him was the same as his first life, Holly and Phoenix. Feather, the brother of Voldemort's wand. Harry didn't want it, not really. He would have preferred to use the wand he'd found in the vault, the wand that was truly his. But I can't. Not yet. No one can know about the vault, about the wand, about any of it. I need to play the part of the boy who lived, use the tools everyone expects me to use. The rest comes later, He accepted the wand with a smile, thanking Ollivander for his time and expertise. The old wand maker watched him with a curious expression, and Harry knew he was being studied, analyzed, catalogued. Let him look. Let him see what he wants to see. It doesn't matter. By the time anyone realizes what I truly am, it will be too late. The last stop of the day was the menagerie, where Harry was supposed to buy an owl. Hagrid was insistent on the owl. Every wizard needs an owl, Harry. They're useful, they are. Carry messages and packages and all sorts of things. Harry nodded along, pretending to be excited by the prospect. But his mind was elsewhere. I don't need an owl. I need something else. Something that can be my eyes and ears, something that can gather information without being noticed. Something unconventional. He let his eyes wander over the selection of owls, his expression thoughtful. Then his gaze fell on a cage in the corner, a cage that held a creature he hadn't expected to see. It was a phoenix. No, not a phoenix. Something else. Something similar, but different. The creature was smaller than a phoenix, its feathers a deep, shimmering black instead of the traditional gold and red. Its eyes were brilliant silver, and they watched Harry with an intelligence that was almost unsettling. What is that? Harry asked, pointing at the cage. The shopkeeper followed his gaze and frowned. That's a night phoenix. Rare creature, it is. We don't see many of them. They're stubborn, independent, no one's ever managed to bond with one. Harry walked over to the cage, feeling a strange pull toward the creature. The night phoenix watched him, its silver eyes meeting his green ones, and Harry felt a spark of connection that he hadn't felt since his first life. It's a phoenix. A different kind of phoenix, but a phoenix nonetheless. And it wants to bond with me. I can feel it. Open the cage, Harry said quietly. The shopkeeper hesitated. Are you sure, boy? These creatures are dangerous. They've been known to open the cage. There was something in Harry's voice that brooked no argument. The shopkeeper fumbled with the lock, and the cage door swung open. The night phoenix hopped out, its movements graceful and fluid, and perched on Harry's shoulder. It leaned in close to his ear and let out a soft, melodic trill that Harry felt in his very soul. Interesting, Harry murmured. Very interesting. Hagrid was staring, his mouth wide open. Harry, that's impossible. Night phoenixes don't bond with anyone. They're wild, they are. Not to me, Harry said. This one has chosen me. He reached up and stroked the creature's head. The night phoenix leaned into the touch, its eyes half closing with pleasure. What will you call it? The shopkeeper asked, his voice filled with wonder. Harry thought for a moment. Obsidian, he said. For the color of its feathers. And because it's something rare and valuable that no one else can see. The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation. Harry and Hagrid returned to the leaky cauldron, where Harry packed his new supplies into a trunk that Hagrid had magically expanded. Harry made sure to keep Obsidian close, to establish the bond that would make the creature his ally. This is perfect. The night phoenix can travel unseen, can gather information no one expects. It's the perfect spy, the perfect messenger. And it's loyal to me, But even as he celebrated his victory, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. There was a tension in the air, a sense of anticipation. That had nothing to do with the upcoming school year. Something's coming. Something I can't predict. The Watcher said others were sent back, enemies I haven't faced. I need to be ready for anything, He spent the evening in his room at the leaky cauldron, studying the books he'd taken from the vault. Obsidian perched on the windowsill, watching the stars with its silver eyes, occasionally letting out a soft trill that seemed to resonate with Harry's magic. The ancient magic in these books is incredible. I've barely scratched the surface of what's possible. If I can master even a fraction of this knowledge, I'll be more powerful than any wizard in history, He read late into the night, absorbing information with a hunger that felt almost desperate. The clock on the wall ticked toward midnight, and the world outside grew quiet and still. I'm going to be ready. No matter what comes, no matter who tries to stop me, I'm going to be ready. I'll conquer the wizarding world, and I'll do it on my terms. Obsidian let out a low, warning trill, and Harry looked up from his book. The room was still, quiet, but there was something in the air, a presence that didn't belong. Who's there? Harry demanded, his hand reaching for the wand Ollivander had given him. The shadows in the corner of the room began to stir, and a figure emerged from the darkness. It was tall and gaunt, with eyes that burned like embers in a dying fire. The Watcher. I told you I'd return, the Watcher said, its voice dry and rustling. You have done well, Harry Potter. You have gathered the resources you need, made the alliances you require. But the real challenge is just beginning. Harry kept his wand trained on the figure. What do you want? I came to give you a warning. The Watcher stepped closer, its form shifting and changing in the dim light. Your enemy is closer than you think. He's been watching you since the day you were reborn, learning about you, planning his moves. And he's not the only one. What are you talking about? The Watcher's ember eyes blazed with intensity. Voldemort knows you survived his attack. He knows you're different from the boy he killed in your first life. And he's afraid. Afraid of what you're becoming. So he's making alliances of his own, alliances that might surprise you. Harry's blood ran cold. Who? Who's he allied with? That I cannot tell you. The Watcher began to fade, its form dissolving into shadow like smoke in the wind. But I will tell you this, trust no one, Harry Potter. Not even the people you loved in your first life. They are not the same people now. The ripples of your second chance have changed everything. Wait, Harry started, but the Watcher was already gone. The room was empty, silent, the only sound Obsidian's soft trill. Harry sat in the darkness for a long moment, his mind racing with possibilities. Voldemort knows. He knows I'm different. And he's making alliances I don't know about. Who? Who would ally with him against me? He thought about everyone he'd known in his first life, the friends, the allies, the enemies. He thought about Dumbledore, about Snape, about the Order of the Phoenix. And he realized with a cold certainty that the Watcher was right. I can't trust anyone. Not anymore. The people I knew in my first life are not the same people now. The ripples of my second chance have changed everything. I need to be prepared for anything. He stood up and walked to the window, his face cold and impassive. Obsidian hopped onto his shoulder, its silver eyes watching the darkness with the same wariness that Harry felt in his heart. You think you can stop me, Voldemort? You think you can make alliances that will defeat me? You have no idea what I've become. No idea what I'm capable of. By the time I'm done with you, you'll wish I had stayed dead. The stars shone down on him, cold and distant and indifferent. And in the darkness of the night, Harry Potter smiled, a cold, calculating smile that promised nothing but pain for his enemies. This time, I'm not the pawn. This time, I'm the player. And I'm going to win. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3, Secrets Hidden Beneath Gringotts. The morning sun cast long shadows through the grimy windows of the leaky cauldron as Harry descended the stairs, his trunk floating obediently behind him. Obsidian perched on his shoulder, feathers ruffled against the morning chill, silver eyes scanning the common room with predatory precision. Harry had barely slept. The Watcher's warning had echoed in his mind all night, a constant reminder that his enemies were closer than he thought. But sleep was a luxury he couldn't afford, not when there was so much to do, so many preparations to make. Today, I return to Gringotts. I need to secure the ancient vaults, establish my relationship with the goblins, and claim everything that's rightfully mine. The wand I found yesterday is powerful, but there's more, so much more, hidden beneath the surface. Hagrid was waiting for him at a corner table, already halfway through a plate of sausages that would have fed a family of 4. He brightened when he saw Harry, his enormous face splitting into a grin. "Morning, Harry. Sleep well?" "Well enough," Harry said, taking a seat across from the giant. "Hagrid, I need to ask you something." "Anything, Harry. Anything at all." Harry leaned forward, his voice low and serious. "I need to return to Gringotts. There are matters I need to attend to. Family matters. But I don't want anyone to know I was there. Can you help me?" Hagrid's brow furrowed. "Gringotts? But we were just there yesterday, Harry. What could be so important that?" "It's about my parents," Harry said, the lie slipping easily from his lips. "There are things I need to understand. Things about my family, my heritage. I can't explain it all right now, but I need to do this. Alone." Hagrid studied him for a long moment, his beetle-black eyes filled with a mixture of concern and something that might have been suspicion. Then he shrugged his massive shoulders. "All right, Harry. If it's that important to you, I'll help. But you'll need a way to get there without being seen. The Ministry's got eyes everywhere, and they're always watching the boy who lived." Harry nodded slowly. "I know. That's why I need you to create a distraction. Something that'll draw their attention away from me for a few hours." "What kind of distraction?" "I trust your judgment," Harry said, allowing a small smile to cross his face. "Just make sure it's memorable." An hour later, Harry was standing in the shadows of a narrow alley, watching as Hagrid lumbered into the leaky cauldron's main entrance with a bucket of something that smelled suspiciously like dragon dung. The giant was muttering loudly about proper care of magical creatures, and Ministry regulations that had gone too far, drawing the attention of every witch and wizard in the vicinity. Perfect. That should keep them occupied for at least an hour. Harry pulled his cloak tighter around his shoulders, not the invisibility cloak, not yet, but a simple enchanted garment that made him harder to notice, easier to overlook. He'd crafted it himself over the past few months, weaving subtle disillusionment charms into the fabric until it seemed to swallow the light around him. "Stay close," he murmured to Obsidian, who had taken to the air and was circling silently above. "Let me know if anyone's coming." The night phoenix let out a soft trill of acknowledgement and vanished into the morning mist. Harry made his way through the winding streets of Diagon Alley, keeping to the shadows, avoiding the main thoroughfares where Ministry officials and curious shoppers might recognize him. His heart was pounding with anticipation, but his mind was cold and clear, every step calculated with precision. The goblins will be expecting me. Griphook knew I'd return. But I need to be careful, the goblins are loyal to no one but themselves. They'll help me as long as it serves their purposes, but the moment I become a liability, they'll turn on me. Gringotts loomed before him, its white marble facade gleaming in the morning light. Harry paused at the entrance, feeling the ancient magic that pulsed through the building, wards and protections that had been laid down centuries ago, designed to keep out anyone who didn't belong. I belong here. This is my birthright. And I'm going to claim every last bit of it. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. The goblin who approached him was not Griphook. He was older, his face more lined, his eyes more calculating. His name, Harry remembered from his first life, was Ragnarok, one of the senior goblins in charge of managing the ancient vaults. "Mr. Potter," Ragnarok said, his voice a dry rasp. "Griphook told me you would be returning. I trust your first visit to our establishment was satisfactory." "Very satisfactory," Harry replied. "But I have more business to conduct today. Business that requires your personal attention." Ragnarok's eyes narrowed, but he nodded slowly. "Follow me, then. We have much to discuss." The goblin led him through the twisting corridors of Gringotts, past the main banking hall and into a section of the building that Harry hadn't visited before. The walls here were older, rougher, carved from stone that seemed to pulse with ancient magic. Torches flickered in iron brackets, casting dancing shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. "This is the Hall of Ancient Vaults," Ragnarok said, gesturing to a massive door that stood at the end of the corridor. "Only the oldest and most powerful families in wizarding history have vaults here. The Potters are among them." Harry studied the door, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on him. "What's inside?" Ragnarok's lips curled into something that might have been a smile. "That, Mr. Potter, depends on what you're willing to sacrifice." "To find out." The goblin's words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Harry met his gaze without flinching. "I'm willing to give whatever it takes." The vault beyond the door was like nothing Harry had ever seen. It was vast, larger than the Great Hall of Hogwarts, larger than any room he'd ever stepped foot in. The ceiling arched high overhead, lost in shadows, and the walls were lined with shelves that stretched up into the darkness. Books, scrolls, artifacts, and treasures of every description filled every available space. But it was the center of the room that drew Harry's attention. A massive stone table dominated the space, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and move when Harry looked at them directly. On the table lay a single object, a crown, crafted from silver and set with gems that glowed with an inner light. "What is this place?" Harry breathed. "This is the heart of the Potter family legacy," Ragnarok said, his voice reverent. "The vault that contains everything your ancestors have gathered over the centuries. Knowledge, power, artifacts of unimaginable value. And at the center." He gestured to the crown. "The symbol of your birthright. The crown of the first Potter." Harry approached the table, his heart pounding in his chest. The crown was beautiful, intricate and elegant, radiating power that Harry could feel in his very soul. He reached out to touch it. "Not yet," Ragnarok said sharply. "There are conditions. The crown cannot be claimed until you've proven yourself worthy." "Proven myself worthy?" Harry's voice was cold. "I'm the heir of the Potter family. The last of my line. What more proof do you need?" Ragnarok's eyes glittered. "The Potters were not merely a noble family, Mr. Potter. They were guardians. Protectors of knowledge and power that other families feared to touch. The crown was forged to be worn only by one who had mastered the 7 ancient disciplines: wandless magic, rune magic, blood magic, soul magic, time magic, ancient magic, and the magic of the elements. Until you have mastered all 7, the crown will not accept you." Harry stared at the crown, his mind racing. He'd already mastered wandless magic and ancient magic, and he was well on his way to mastering the others. But there were disciplines here that he'd barely scratched the surface of. Time magic, for instance, was something he'd only read about in theoretical texts. "How long do I have?" he asked. Ragnarok shrugged. "As long as it takes. The crown has waited for centuries. It can wait a little longer. But I will tell you this, Mr. Potter, there are others who seek the crown. Others who know about its existence. They would do anything to claim it." Harry's eyes narrowed. "Who?" The goblin's smile was cold. "That is information that has a price. Name it." "Your loyalty." Ragnarok stepped closer, his ancient eyes boring into Harry's. "When the time comes, when you've mastered the disciplines and claimed the crown, the goblins will need your support. There are threats to our people that even the Ministry doesn't know about. Threats that only the true heir of the Potters can face." Harry studied the goblin's face, trying to read the truth behind his words. But Ragnarok's expression was unreadable, as ancient and inscrutable as the vault around them. "I'll help you when I can," Harry said carefully. "But I make no promises I can't keep. That is all I ask." The next few hours were spent exploring the vault, cataloging its contents, and absorbing as much knowledge as Harry could. The books here were unlike anything he'd seen before, ancient texts written in languages that had been dead for centuries, scrolls that contained spells and rituals that had been forbidden for generations. This is incredible. The Potters were more than just a family, they were a dynasty, protectors of knowledge that could reshape the entire wizarding world. And it's all mine, asterisk. He found a section devoted to rune magic, ancient symbols and sigils that could be used to create powerful enchantments and protections. He found another section on blood magic, with detailed instructions on how to use one's own magical essence to create powerful spells. And he found a third section on soul magic, the forbidden art that Voldemort had perverted to create his Horcruxes. I need to understand soul magic if I'm going to defeat Voldemort. I need to know how to destroy his Horcruxes, how to repair the damage he's done to his own soul. And I need to know how to protect my own soul from being corrupted, He spent hours reading, absorbing information with a hunger that seemed insatiable. The books were dense and complex, filled with concepts that would have taken years for a normal wizard to understand. But Harry wasn't a normal wizard. He had the knowledge of his first life to draw on, and the determination to succeed where others had failed. If I can master soul magic, I can destroy Voldemort without becoming like him. I can repair the damage he's done to his own soul, maybe even restore him to a state where he can feel remorse. And if I can do that, if I can show the wizarding world that even the darkest wizard can be redeemed, then they'll follow me. They'll have no choice, He was so absorbed in his reading that he almost missed the shift in the air. A change in temperature, a subtle pressure against his senses that warned him something was wrong. Obsidian, he called softly, and the night phoenix appeared instantly on his shoulder, its silver eyes alert and wary. What is it? Obsidian trilled softly, a sound of warning that sent a chill down Harry's spine. He looked up from his book, his hand reaching for his wand. And froze. Standing at the entrance to the vault was a figure he recognized. Tall, gaunt, with pale skin and dark hair, he was dressed in black robes that seemed to swallow the light around him. His eyes were dark and cold, and they fixed on Harry with an intensity that made his blood run cold. Lucius Malfoy. The man smiled, a thin, predatory smile that didn't reach his eyes. Harry Potter. How unexpected to find you here. Harry forced himself to remain calm, to keep his voice steady. What are you doing here, Mr. Malfoy? This is a private vault. Malfoy stepped into the room, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Private? Yes, I suppose it is. But you see, Harry, there are certain interests that go beyond mere privacy. Certain matters that require my attention. Such as? Malfoy's eyes flickered to the books on the table, to the crown that still rested on its pedestal. Such as the Potter family legacy. I've heard rumors, you see. Whispers that the Potters possessed knowledge that could change the very nature of magic. Knowledge that certain people would do anything to acquire. Harry felt his magic surging, ready to defend him at a moment's notice. But he held it in check, forcing himself to remain calm. Knowledge that certain people would do anything to acquire, he repeated. And who might those people be? Malfoy's smile widened. Let's just say that there are forces at work in this world, Harry, that even you don't understand. Forces that have been watching you since the day you were born. Forces that see you as a threat, and as an opportunity. I'm not interested in your games, Malfoy, Harry said flatly. If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, get out. Feisty. Just like your father. Malfoy's eyes glittered with malice. You know, James Potter was one of the most arrogant men I've ever met. He thought he could do anything, that he was untouchable. And look what happened to him. Harry felt a flash of anger, hot and bright, but he forced it down. My father was a hero. He died fighting for what he believed in. What did you do during the war, Mr. Malfoy? Hide behind your wealth and your pure blood status while others fought and died. Malfoy's face flushed with anger. You have no idea what you're talking about, boy. You weren't there. You don't know what it was like. I know more than you think, Harry said quietly. I know about your activities during the war. I know about the Death Eaters, the attacks, the people you helped to destroy. And I know that you'll do anything to protect your own skin, even if it means betraying everyone you've ever claimed to love. The room fell silent, the tension between them thick enough to cut with a knife. Malfoy stared at Harry, his expression unreadable, and Harry stared back. I came here to offer you a choice, Harry, Malfoy said finally. A chance to align yourself with people who can help you. People who can give you what you truly want. And what is it you think I truly want? Power, Malfoy said simply. You have it within you, I can see it in your eyes. You're not the same boy who defeated the Dark Lord as a baby. You've changed. You've grown. And you want more than just to be a hero. You want to be a king. Harry felt a chill run down his spine. Malfoy had seen through him, or at least, he'd seen enough to be dangerous. I don't know what you're talking about, Harry said, his voice flat. Don't you? Malfoy laughed, a cold, brittle sound. You think I can't see what's happening? The subtle manipulations, the careful planning, the way you've been building your power in secret? You're not just a boy, Harry. You're a survivor. A strategist. A player in a game that's much bigger than you can imagine. Enough. Harry's voice was sharp, cutting through Malfoy's words like a knife. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but I'm not interested. Get out of my vault, Malfoy. And if you ever come near me again, I'll make you regret it. Malfoy's eyes widened slightly, and Harry could see the calculation in his gaze, the weighing of risks and benefits, the assessment of whether it was worth pushing further. I'll leave, Malfoy said slowly. But this isn't over, Harry. You can't hide from what's coming. No one can. And when the darkness falls, you'll need allies. Remember that. He turned and walked toward the door, his robes swirling around him. But he paused at the threshold, looking back over his shoulder. One more thing, he said. The Dark Lord is closer than you think. He's been watching you, Harry, just as I have. And he's not the only one. There are others who have been waiting for a long time. Others who see you as the key to everything. Harry's blood ran cold, but he kept his expression neutral. Who? Malfoy smiled, a thin, cruel smile that held no warmth. You'll find out soon enough. But when you do, remember that you had a choice. And you chose to walk alone. Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows beyond the vault's entrance. Harry stood alone in the vast chamber, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing. Malfoy's words echoed in his head, a warning and a promise all at once. Asterisk he knows. He knows I'm different. He knows I've been planning. And he's not the only one. Voldemort is watching me, and there are others who see me as the key to everything. What does he mean? Who are they? What do they want with me, asterisk? Obsidian let out a soft trill, and Harry reached up to stroke the creature's feathers. The Night Phoenix's presence was comforting, a reminder that he wasn't alone in this fight. I need to move faster, Harry murmured to himself. I need to master the disciplines, claim the crown, build my power as quickly as possible. The longer I wait, the more vulnerable I am. Malfoy knows too much. Voldemort is watching. And there are others I don't even know about. He began gathering the books and scrolls he'd been reading, stuffing them into a magically expanded bag that Ragnarok had provided. He needed to study them carefully, to absorb every bit of knowledge they contained. Asterisk time is running out. The Watcher said it would be different this time, harder, more complicated. I didn't believe him. I thought I could handle anything. But Malfoy changes everything, asterisk. He paused at the table where the crown still rested, its gems pulsing with inner light. The crown of the first Potter, the symbol of his birthright, the key to unlocking his full potential. Asterisk I'll master the disciplines. I'll claim the crown. And then I'll show them all what a true wizard can do. Asterisk. Harry emerged from the vault to find Ragnarok waiting for him, his ancient face impassive. "Mr. Potter," the goblin said. "I trust your visit was productive." Harry nodded slowly. "Very productive. But I need to ask you something that might be difficult to answer." Ragnarok's eyes narrowed. "Ask." "Lucius Malfoy was here," Harry said. "He accessed my vault without permission." "How did he get in?" The goblin's face darkened. "Malfoy has certain privileges. As one of the oldest families in Wizarding Britain, he has access to many vaults, including some that are not strictly his by right. It's a matter of politics, Mr. Potter. Gringotts must balance the interests of many powerful families." "Politics," Harry repeated coldly. "I see. The goblins would never betray your trust intentionally," Ragnarok added. "But we must survive in a world that is not always kind to our people. Sometimes, that means making compromises." Harry stared at him for a long moment, his mind working through the implications. "I understand," he said finally. "But let me be clear about something, Ragnarok. I am not the kind of person who accepts compromises. I will not tolerate anyone, goblin or wizard, accessing my vaults without my permission. If it happens again, there will be consequences." Ragnarok's eyes widened slightly, and Harry could see a flicker of respect in the ancient goblin's gaze. "I understand, Mr. Potter. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." "See that you do." The journey back to the leaky cauldron was uneventful, but Harry's mind was churning with thoughts. Malfoy's visit had shaken him more than he wanted to admit. It was a reminder that his enemies were closer than he'd thought, more aware of his activities than was comfortable. I need to be more careful. More subtle. I can't let anyone see what I'm doing, not until I'm ready. Not until I've built enough power to protect myself. Hagrid was waiting for him in the pub, his face flushed with excitement. "Harry. You're back. Good timing, too. I've got wonderful news." Harry forced a smile. "What kind of news?" "It's about your school supplies." Hagrid beamed. "I found something in the back of the shop that I think you'll love. A special book, all about the history of magical creatures. I thought you might like it, since you've got such an interest in magical beasts." Harry accepted the book with a nod of thanks, his mind still elsewhere. The book was interesting, yes, but it wasn't what he needed right now. What he needed was time to study, time to plan, time to prepare for the coming storm. "Thank you, Hagrid," he said. "I appreciate it." Hagrid's grin widened. "Anything for you, Harry. You're the boy who lived, after all. Everyone knows your name. And they'll be proud to call you their hero." Harry felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Hero. That's what they wanted him to be. The innocent boy who saves the day, who defeats the Dark Lord, who does all the right things for all the right reasons. I'm not a hero. Not anymore. Heroes get manipulated, used, sacrificed for the greater good. I'm not going to be anyone's sacrifice. This time, I'm going to be the one in control. He smiled at Hagrid, a warm, genuine smile that hid the cold calculations behind his eyes. "I'm looking forward to it," he said. "To Hogwarts, to everything. I know it's going to be different." That night, Harry sat in his room at the leaky cauldron, the books and scrolls from the vault spread across the bed. Obsidian was perched on the windowsill, watching the stars with its silver eyes, occasionally letting out a soft trill that seemed to resonate with Harry's magic. I need to master all 7 disciplines. Wandless magic I already know. Ancient magic I'm well on my way to mastering. Rune magic, blood magic, soul magic, time magic, those are the ones I need to focus on. And the magic of the elements, too. That's the hardest of them all. He opened the first book, a tome on rune magic that was older than Hogwarts itself. The pages were yellowed with age, the ink faded and difficult to read. But Harry's eyes were sharp, his mind focused. Asterisk runes are the foundation of all magical enchantments. They're the language of the universe, the symbols that give magic its form and structure. If I can master the runes, I can create enchantments that no one can break. I can build protections that no one can penetrate. I can reshape the very fabric of magic itself, asterisk. He studied the symbols, tracing them with his finger, feeling the power they contained. Some of them were familiar, he'd seen them in the books he'd studied in his first life, in the Hogwarts library, in the ancient texts he'd discovered in the Room of Requirement. But many of them were new, strange, filled with meanings he'd never even imagined. Asterisk, this is going to take time. Years, maybe decades. But I have the time. I have the knowledge. And I have the power. I'll learn it all. And when I do, I'll be unstoppable, asterisk. He was so absorbed in his studies that he almost didn't notice the change in the air, the subtle shift in temperature, the faint pressure against his consciousness that warned him something was wrong. Obsidian let out a sharp trill, and Harry looked up from his book. The figure standing in the corner of the room was not the Watcher. It was someone else, someone Harry had never seen before. A woman, tall and regal, with silver hair that fell to her waist and eyes the color of winter frost. She was dressed in robes of pure white, and she radiated a power that made Harry's magic tremble in response. "Harry Potter," she said. Her voice like chiming bells. "I've been waiting for you." Harry's hand went to his wand. "Who are you? What do you want?" She smiled, a soft, sad smile that held no warmth. "My name is Morgana. And I have come to warn you." "Warn me? About what?" Morgana stepped closer, her eyes never leaving Harry's face. "The crown you seek. The crown of the first Potter. You think it's the key to your power, the symbol of your birthright. But it's more than that, Harry. Much more." "What do you mean?" "The crown is a prison," Morgana said. "A trap created by the first Potters to contain something they couldn't destroy. Something that has been waiting for centuries to be released." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of something?" Morgana's eyes were grave. "The first Potter was not just a wizard, Harry. He was the keeper of secrets, secrets that could destroy the world. The crown was designed to guard those secrets, to keep them safe from those who would misuse them. But if the crown is claimed by someone who doesn't understand its true purpose, the secrets will be released. And the results would be catastrophic." Harry stared at her, his mind racing. "How do you know about all this? Who are you?" Morgana's smile was sad. "I am the guardian of the crown, Harry. My family has been protecting it for centuries, watching over it, waiting for the true heir to claim it. You are that heir. But you must be careful. The crown will test you in ways you can't imagine. It will try to corrupt you, to use you for its own purposes. And if you fail the test, everything will be lost." Harry shook his head, trying to process the information. "You're saying I shouldn't claim the crown? That I should just leave it alone?" Morgana shook her head. "No. The crown must be claimed. The magic is too powerful, too unstable, to be left unattended. But you must be ready. You must be strong enough to resist its influence. You must be pure of heart." "Pure of heart," Harry repeated, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "I don't think I qualify." Morgana studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching his. "No, you don't. Not yet. But you could be. You have goodness in you, Harry. You have the potential to be great. But you have to choose. You have to decide who you want to be." She stepped closer, close enough that Harry could feel the cold emanating from her robes. "The crown will give you unimaginable power. It will make you the most powerful wizard in existence. But it will also take something from you. Something precious. And once it's gone, you'll never get it back. What will it take? Morgana's eyes were filled with sorrow. Your humanity, Harry. The part of you that cares about others, that feels compassion, that knows right from wrong. The crown will strip all of that away, leaving nothing but cold power. You'll be a ruler, yes. But you'll be a ruler without a soul. Harry stared at her, his heart pounding in his chest. The warning echoed in his mind, resonating with the Watcher's words, with everything he'd learned over the past years. I don't have a choice, he said finally. I can't be weak. I can't let anyone control me. I've been manipulated my whole life, used as a pawn in other people's games. I won't let that happen again. Morgana's expression softened. I understand, Harry. I do. But understand this, there is a difference between strength and power. Strength comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are and staying true to that. Power is just a tool. It can be used for good or for evil. The choice is yours. She began to fade, her form dissolving into light. I will be watching you, Harry, she said, her voice echoing in the room. When the time comes, I will be there. And I will judge you. And then she was gone. Harry sat in the darkness, his mind reeling. The crown, the disciplines, the goblins, Morgana, everything was happening so fast. He'd thought he had a plan, a clear path to victory. But the more he learned, the more complicated everything became. I need to be careful. I need to be sure. I can't afford to make mistakes, not with so much at stake, Obsidian hopped onto his shoulder, and Harry reached up to stroke the creature's feathers. We'll figure this out, he murmured. Together. The night stretched on around him, filled with secrets and dangers and endless possibilities. And somewhere in the darkness, Harry could feel his enemies closing in. But he was ready. He had to be. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, Entering Hogwarts with Hidden Intentions. The Hogwarts Express billowed steam across platform 9 3/4, its crimson engine gleaming like a wound in the grey London morning. Harry stood apart from the chaos of parents and children, his trunk floating behind him, Obsidian perched on his shoulder like a shadow made flesh. This is it. The beginning of everything. The first time around, I walked onto this train as a scared, lonely boy who didn't know anything about the magical world. This time, I walk onto this train as a conqueror who knows exactly what he wants and how to get it, The platform was exactly as he remembered it, the same excited chatter, the same tearful goodbyes, the same nervous energy that came with the start of a new school year. But Harry saw it differently now. He saw the political alliances being formed in casual conversations, the rivalries being born in passing glances, the seeds of future conflicts being planted with every word spoken. Ron Weasley is over there, being lectured by his mother about good behavior. Hermione Granger is somewhere on the platform, probably already reciting textbooks in her head. Draco Malfoy is being fawned over by his father, learning the first lessons of pureblood superiority. All of them are exactly where they're supposed to be, doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And I'm going to use all of it, He spotted the Weasley twins trying to sneak their trunks onto the train without anyone noticing, and a genuine smile crossed his face. Fred and George had always been among his favorites, loyal, clever, and utterly fearless in their pursuit of chaos. He'd need them on his side eventually. But not yet. For now, he had more immediate concerns. Harry, over here. Harry turned to see Hagrid's enormous form pushing through the crowd, his face beaming with excitement. The gamekeeper had insisted on seeing him off, claiming that, it's only proper, for the boy who lived to have a proper send-off. Hagrid, Harry said, allowing a warm smile to cross his face. You didn't have to come. Nonsense. Hagrid boomed, pulling Harry into a bone-crushing hug. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Harry. First day of Hogwarts, it's a special day, it is. Your parents would be so proud." Harry allowed himself to be hugged, his mind cataloguing the details of the moment for later analysis. Hagrid's affection was genuine, but it was also a potential vulnerability. The gamekeeper had a big heart and a loose tongue, and Harry knew better than to trust any of his secrets to someone who might accidentally share them with the wrong person. "I'll write to you," Harry promised. "Let you know how everything goes." "See that you do." Hagrid's eyes were glistening suspiciously. "And Harry, be careful, all right? Hogwarts is a wonderful place, but it's got its dangers too. There's things in that castle that even the professors don't fully understand." Harry nodded, his expression serious. "I'll be careful. I promise. More careful than you could possibly imagine." The train was crowded, filled with students of all ages milling about in search of empty compartments. Harry moved through the chaos with practiced ease, his eyes scanning for the right opportunity, the right moment to make his move. I know exactly how this is supposed to go. I meet Ron in the first compartment, we become friends, and the rest is history. But that's not what I want this time. Ron is loyal, yes, but he's also blinded by his own insecurities. He'll follow me because he wants to be important, not because he believes in what I'm trying to do. I need followers who believe, who understand what I'm building. He passed by a compartment where Draco Malfoy was holding court, surrounded by Crabbe and Goyle like a king with his court jester. The Malfoy heir was already boasting about his family's influence, the favors his father could grant, the power he would one day inherit. Pathetic. He's a child playing at being important, completely unaware of how small he really is. I could destroy him with a single word, a single gesture. But I won't. Not yet. I'll wait until he's useful, until I can use his connections and his family's influence for my own purposes. He found an empty compartment at the end of the train and settled in, placing his trunk on the overhead rack and obsidian on the windowsill. The night phoenix trilled softly, its silver eyes scanning the passing scenery with barely contained curiosity. "Stay close," Harry murmured. "Let me know if anyone interesting comes by." He pulled out one of the books from his vault, a treatise on ancient blood magic, and began to read, his eyes scanning the pages while his mind worked through the implications of the text. He discovered several promising rituals in his research, methods of strengthening his magical core, expanding his power, binding allies to his will. Blood magic is powerful because it's personal. It uses the essence of the practitioner to fuel the spells, making them more potent, more difficult to counter. But it's also dangerous. If the practitioner isn't careful, they can lose themselves in the power, become addicted to the rush of strength it provides. He was so absorbed in his studies that he almost missed the knock on the compartment door. Someone's coming. I need to be careful, whoever it is, they'll be watching me closely, evaluating me, deciding whether I'm worth their time or not. Come in, he called, closing the book and tucking it away. The door slid open to reveal a girl with bushy brown hair and a face full of curiosity. Hermione Granger. Exactly as he remembered her, eager, intelligent, and utterly without filter when it came to the things she knew. "Excuse me," she said, her voice slightly breathless. "Have you seen a toad? A boy named Neville lost his, and I've been helping him look for it." Harry blinked, processing the information. Neville's toad, Trevor. He remembered that incident from his first life, the first of many times Hermione would insert herself into situations that didn't concern her. "No, I haven't seen any toads," Harry said politely. "But I'll keep an eye out." Hermione nodded, her eyes flickering to the book he'd just put away. "What were you reading? I don't recognize the cover." Harry smiled, a carefully crafted smile that conveyed friendliness without revealing anything important. "Just a book on magical theory. I've always found it fascinating." "Oh, me too." Hermione's face lit up. I've read all the standard textbooks cover to cover, of course, but I've also been doing some extracurricular reading. Did you know that the theory of transfiguration hasn't been updated in over 200 years? It's really quite scandalous when you think about it. Harry nodded, allowing her to ramble while he studied her face. Hermione was a valuable asset, brilliant, loyal, and driven by a need to prove herself. But she was also rigid, bound by rules and regulations, likely to rebel if she ever discovered the true extent of his plans. I'll need to be careful with her. She's useful, but she's also dangerous. If she ever figures out what I'm really doing, she'll try to stop me. I need to keep her close, keep her believing I'm the hero she expects me to be. I'm Hermione Granger, by the way, she said, finally taking a breath. And you are? Harry Potter. He held out his hand. Pleasure to meet you. Hermione's eyes went wide. Harry Potter. The Harry Potter. The boy who lived. The one and only, Harry said, allowing a self-deprecating smile. Though I've never really understood the whole boy who lived thing. I was just a baby when it happened. I don't remember any of it. That's so humble of you. Hermione gushed. Most people would be boasting about it, but you're just so normal about it. I can tell we're going to be great friends. Harry's smile widened. I hope so. I don't have many friends in the magical world yet. I'd love to have someone to talk to about, well, everything. Hermione beamed. Then we'll definitely be friends. I'll sit with you on the train, if that's all right. I'm sure I can find Neville's toad later. Harry nodded, gesturing for her to sit. Of course. I'd love the company. Perfect. She's hooked. Now I just need to keep her close, keep her useful, and make sure she never sees the truth behind the mask. The journey to Hogwarts passed in a blur of conversation and careful observation. Harry let Hermione talk, about her studies, her ambitions, her determination to prove herself in a world that often looked down on Muggleborns. He nodded and smiled and made all the right noises, his mind working through the implications of her words. She's desperate to prove herself. Desperate to show that she belongs, that her blood status doesn't matter, that she's just as good as any pureblood. That desperation is a weakness I can exploit. If I offer her a chance to be more, to do more, to prove herself in ways she never imagined, she'll follow me anywhere. He also paid attention to the other students who passed by, the ones who glanced through the compartment window, the ones who whispered behind their hands when they saw his scar. He catalogued faces, names, connections. He made mental notes of who was powerful, who was influential, who might be useful in the days to come. Draco Malfoy has already started building his followers. He's got the pureblood families on his side, the ones who see him as the next leader of their movement. But I'll take that from him. I'll show them all that blood doesn't matter, that power matters. And I'll have so much power that they'll have no choice but to follow me. The train began to slow, and Harry felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. They were arriving at Hogwarts. The place that had been his home in his first life, the place where he had suffered and loved and lost so much. This time, he would make it his domain. We're almost there, he said, standing up and stretching. I can't wait to see the castle. Hermione nodded eagerly. I've seen pictures, of course, but I'm sure they don't do it justice. Hogwarts is supposed to be the most magical place in Britain, if not the whole world. I've heard that too, Harry agreed, his voice carefully neutral. I'm looking forward to seeing it with my own eyes. The boats across the Black Lake were exactly as Harry remembered, small wooden vessels that seemed to move of their own accord, carrying the first-year students toward the castle that glowed in the distance. Harry sat in the front, his eyes fixed on the approaching towers, his heart pounding with a strange mixture of nostalgia and determination. I remember this moment. The awe, the wonder, the feeling that I was finally home. And Hogwarts was my home in ways that Privet Drive could never be. But this time, I'm not coming as a lost boy searching for belonging. I'm coming as a conqueror searching for a kingdom, asterisk. He spotted the familiar silhouette of Hagrid in the distance, waiting for them on the shore. He saw the first years huddled together in nervous excitement, whispering about the magical castle they were about to enter. And he felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This is the start of everything. The beginning of my ascent. By the time I leave this castle, I'll have built an empire that will span the entire wizarding world. And no one, not Dumbledore, not Voldemort, not anyone, will be able to stop me, asterisk. The entrance to the castle was a spectacle of torchlight and shadow, the stone walls flickering with the dancing flames that illuminated the great hall. Harry and his fellow first-years were led by Professor McGonagall into an antechamber, where they were told to wait while the sorting ceremony was prepared. Harry watched the other students with careful observation, noting their nervousness, their anticipation, their barely concealed excitement. He saw Neville Longbottom clutching his toad, having finally been reunited with the creature. He saw Ron Weasley, already paling at the prospect of the ceremony. He saw Draco Malfoy and his followers, smug and confident in the knowledge of their pure-blood heritage. They all think they know how this is going to go. The purebloods think they'll be sorted into Slytherin, where they'll continue their family's legacy of power and influence. The others hope for something else, Gryffindor for the brave, Ravenclaw for the clever, Hufflepuff for the hard-working. But none of them understand what I understand. None of them know that the sorting ceremony isn't just about placement, it's about identity. It's about choosing who you want to be, asterisk. Welcome, first years, McGonagall said, her voice cutting through the chatter. In a few moments, you will be sorted into your houses. Your house will be your home within Hogwarts, your family, your community. Your achievements will earn your house points, and your failures will cost them. Choose wisely, for your house will shape your experience at this school. Harry nodded along with the other students, his face the picture of attentive innocence. But his mind was elsewhere, working through the implications of his plan. The sorting hat offered me Gryffindor in my first life. It told me I would do well in any house, but it wanted to send me to Gryffindor because it sensed my potential for courage and self-sacrifice. But I'm not the same person I was. I'm not brave in the way Gryffindors are brave, I'm strategic, calculating, willing to do whatever it takes to achieve my goals. And that's not Gryffindor. That's Slytherin, asterisk. He felt a chill run down his spine as he contemplated the choice. Slytherin was the house of the ambitious, the cunning, the ones who would do whatever it took to achieve their goals. It was also the house that had produced some of the darkest wizards in history, including the one who had murdered his parents. But Slytherin isn't evil. Salazar Slytherin had his flaws, yes, but his vision was about strength, about elevating the best and the brightest regardless of their origins. He saw the potential in wizards who were willing to push boundaries, to explore forbidden knowledge, to do whatever it took to achieve greatness. That's what I want. That's what I need to become, asterisk. He didn't look at the other students. He didn't need to. He already knew what they would think, what they would whisper behind his back. The boy who lived in Slytherin. It would be a scandal, a betrayal of everything he represented. But that was exactly what he needed. Let them whisper. Let them judge. I'll show them all that Slytherin isn't the house of evil, it's the house of power. And I'm going to be the most powerful wizard who's ever lived, asterisk. The sorting ceremony was a blur of names and houses and nervous faces. Harry watched each student step up to the stool, watched the hat placed on their head, watched the expression of anticipation or relief as their house was announced. Hermione Granger to Gryffindor. Of course. She's brave and loyal, but she's also desperate to prove herself in ways that the sorting hat recognizes. Ron Weasley to Gryffindor. Another predictable choice, his whole family has been in Gryffindor for generations. Neville Longbottom to Gryffindor. He'll have to prove himself, but he'll do it. He's braver than he knows, asterisk. And then it was his turn. Potter, Harry. The whispers began immediately, spreading through the hall like wildfire. Harry heard his name echoed in hushed tones, saw the curious faces turn toward him, felt the weight of hundreds of eyes upon him. This is it. The moment that will define everything. I have to be perfect, completely believable, completely innocent. No one can suspect what I'm about to do. He walked to the stool with measured steps, his face carefully blank. He sat down, and the sorting hat was placed on his head. And then he heard it, the familiar voice in his mind, the one that had been there in his first life, offering him a choice. Potter. Harry Potter. I remember you. You were here before, looking for answers. And now you're back, with more questions, more secrets, more ambitions. I can see it all. The power, the determination, the hunger. You're not the same boy who sat here all those years ago. Harry's mind was a fortress, walls of acclimacy shielding his thoughts from the hat's probing. He let the hat see what he wanted it to see, a young wizard with immense potential, uncertain of his path but driven by a desire to do the right thing. You're hiding from me, the hat said, its voice tinged with curiosity. Very impressive for a boy your age. But I can still sense the truth, you want power. You want control. You want to shape the world to your will. That's not the courage of Gryffindor. That's the ambition of Slytherin. Harry let the smile play across his lips. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He could feel the hat's surprise, its momentary confusion. You want to be in Slytherin? Are you sure, boy? You know what they'll say, what they'll think. The boy who lived in Slytherin. It's a scandal, a betrayal of everything you represent. I know what they'll say, Harry replied. And I don't care. Slytherin is where I'll find the allies I need, the resources I require. It's where I'll build the power to change everything. And I'll show them all that Slytherin can be a force. For good, or at least, for progress. The hat was silent for a long moment, processing the decision. Then it laughed, a soft, bemused sound that echoed through Harry's mind. Very well, Harry Potter. I gave you a choice in your first life, and you chose Gryffindor. This time, you've chosen differently. I can see the future you're trying to build, the empire you're trying to create. And I have to admit, I'm curious to see how it turns out. The hat's voice rose, filling the hall with its proclamation. Slytherin. The silence that followed was absolute. Harry could feel the shock radiating from the other students, the professors, even the portraits on the walls. He could see the confusion on Dumbledore's face, the barely concealed anger on McGonagall's, the smug satisfaction on Snape's. Perfect. Exactly as planned, He took the hat off and walked to the Slytherin table, where the older students were still processing what had just happened. He took a seat next to a group of older boys, who stared at him with expressions that ranged from hostility to curiosity. Well, one of them said, his voice cold. The boy who lived in Slytherin. How unexpected. Harry smiled, a carefully crafted expression that conveyed friendliness without revealing anything important. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all. I've heard great things about the Slytherin house. Have you? Another student laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. I'm sure you have. The great Harry Potter, slumming it with the evil Slytherins. Tell me, Potter, does Dumbledore know what you've done? Harry's smile didn't waver. Dumbledore isn't my keeper. I make my own choices. And I chose Slytherin because I believe in the values of the house. Ambition. Cunning. The determination to achieve greatness, regardless of the obstacles. The students around him exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Interesting, the first student said slowly. Very interesting. I suppose we'll see how long. That lasts when the Gryffindors start attacking you for your house choice. Let them try, Harry said, his voice calm and steady. I can handle myself. The feast was a whirlwind of whispers and furtive glances. Harry sat at the Slytherin table, eating his meal with practiced ease, while the other students around him tried to figure out what to make of him. They don't trust me. They don't know what to believe. Some of them think I'm a spy for Dumbledore, sent to infiltrate Slytherin and report back to the Order. Others think I'm a traitor to my own family, a betrayal of everything my parents stood for. And a few of them, the ones with real intelligence, real ambition, are curious. They're wondering if I can be useful, if I can help them achieve their own goals. He let them watch him, let them judge him. He knew that in time, he would prove himself. He would show them that he wasn't just a boy with a famous scar, he was a wizard with the power to reshape the world. Patience. I need patience. Trust takes time to build, especially among Slytherins. But I've got time. I've got all the time in the world. The headmaster's speech was exactly as Harry remembered it, the same warnings about the Forbidden Forest, the same encouragement to stay out of trouble, the same cryptic remarks about the coming year. But Harry's attention was elsewhere, focused on the details that had escaped him in his first life. Dumbledore looks older. More tired. He's been carrying the weight of the wizarding world for decades, and it's wearing on him. But he's still sharp, still watching, still planning. He knows something's different about me. He just doesn't know what. Harry met Dumbledore's eyes across the hall, and for a moment, he could have sworn he saw something flicker in the old wizard's gaze, a recognition, a warning, a promise of things to come. He's not my enemy. Not yet. But he could be. If he tries to control me, to manipulate me, to use me as a pawn in his schemes. He'll learn what happens when you try to cage a dragon. After the feast, the Slytherin prefects led the first years down into the dungeons, where the common room was hidden behind a stone wall that responded only to the password. Harry followed the group, his eyes scanning the passageways, cataloging the layout of the Slytherin territory. The common room is exactly as I remember it, dark and mysterious, with green-tinted light filtering through the windows into the lake. It's beautiful in its own way, cold and forbidding, a place where ambition and cunning are valued above all else. He found a seat near the fire and settled in, watching the other students as they dispersed to their respective corners. The older students were already whispering among themselves, clearly discussing the new arrival who had shaken the foundations of the house. They'll be watching me closely for the next few days. Testing me, probing me, looking for weaknesses. I need to be careful. I need to show them strength without revealing my true power. I need to be just clever enough to impress them, just careful enough to avoid suspicion. A girl approached him, her dark hair falling over her face, her eyes sharp and assessing. She looked familiar, and after a moment, Harry remembered why. He'd seen her in his first life, a background figure in the world he'd inhabited. Pansy Parkinson, she said, her voice cold. I'm the unofficial leader of the Slytherin first years. And I want to know exactly what you're doing in our house. Harry smiled his practiced smile. I'm here to learn, just like everyone else. I've always admired the Slytherin values, ambition, cunning, the determination to achieve greatness. I want to be part of that tradition. Pansy's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? The boy who lived, who defeated the Dark Lord as a baby, suddenly deciding he's a Slytherin. It doesn't make sense. You're right, it doesn't, Harry agreed. Which is exactly why I did it. Everyone expects me to be a Gryffindor, to play the hero, to do what I'm told. But I'm not interested in being what everyone expects. I'm interested in being myself. Pansy studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded slowly. All right. I'll give you a chance, Potter. But don't think that means I trust you. I'll be watching you closely. One wrong move, and you'll find out exactly what happens to traitors in Slytherin. Harry nodded, his expression sincere. I wouldn't expect anything less. The first few days at Hogwarts were a careful balancing act. Harry attended his classes with the appearance of a normal student, taking notes, asking questions, doing his best to seem engaged. But behind the mask of normalcy, his mind was constantly working, planning, scheming. Potions with Snape is going to be a challenge. The man hates me, always has, always will. But I can use that hatred, turn it into something useful. If I can perform well in his class, show him I'm not the arrogant, rule-breaking Gryffindor he expects, I might be able to earn his grudging respect. He watched Snape closely during their first potions lesson, noting the way the professor's eyes flicked to him with barely concealed contempt. He let the hatred wash over him, let it fuel his determination to succeed. He's not just a bully. He's a deeply damaged man, haunted by the ghosts of his past. Lily Evans, my mother, he loved her, and he's never gotten over her death. Every time he looks at me, he sees her eyes. He sees the woman he failed to save. And that makes him hate me even more. Harry completed his potion perfectly, not just acceptably, but perfectly. He used the skills he'd developed in his first life, the knowledge he'd gained from years of practice, and when Snape examined his work, he saw something flicker in the man's dark eyes. Passable, Snape said, his voice flat. For a first year. Harry nodded, keeping his expression neutral. Thank you, Professor. I'll try to do better next time. Snape stared at him for a long moment, clearly trying to find the hidden meaning in the words. But Harry's mask was perfect, his occlumency impenetrable. See that you do, Snape said finally, moving on to the next student. Transfiguration was a different matter entirely. McGonagall was a skilled teacher, firm but fair, and she watched Harry with a carefully neutral expression that was clearly intended to hide her confusion about his house placement. Harry performed well in her class, showing the natural talent that had always marked his magical skills, but he was careful not to excel too much. I need to be seen as a good student, not a prodigy. If I show too much strength too early, people will start asking questions. They'll wonder how I learned so much, where I got my training, who's been teaching me. And I can't afford that kind of attention. Not yet. He also made sure to notice the other students in his classes, the ones who were struggling, the ones who were excelling, the ones who seemed to be hiding something. He catalogued them all, building a mental database of potential allies and enemies. Theo Nod is a pureblood who's intelligent but quiet. He's not a follower like Crabbe or Goyle, he's got his own mind, his own ambitions. He could be useful. I'll need to approach him carefully, earn his trust before I reveal my true intentions. Blaise Zabini is another potential ally. He's got connections across the wizarding world, a network of contacts that could be invaluable. But he's also fiercely independent, loyal to no one but himself. I'll need to prove that I can offer him something worth his allegiance. And Draco Malfoy. Draco is going to be a problem. He's already started gathering followers, building a coalition of pure-blood students who look to him as their leader. He sees me as a threat, a rival for the power he expects to inherit. I need to deal with him carefully, not too aggressive, not too passive. Just enough to keep him off balance. The first Quidditch match of the season was a spectacle that Harry watched from the Slytherin stands, his eyes fixed on the players as they soared through the air. He had always loved Quidditch, the speed, the danger, the thrill of the competition, but he knew that this time, he had more important things to focus on than playing for a house team. I need to focus on building my power, not on chasing after a snitch. But Quidditch could be useful, a way to earn respect, to build alliances, to prove myself to the Slytherins who still doubt me. He watched Draco Malfoy attempt to catch the snitch and fail spectacularly, and a small smile crossed his face. He's talented, but he's arrogant. He thinks his family's wealth and influence can buy him anything, including victory. He's wrong. And when the time comes, I'll show him exactly how wrong he is. The weeks passed in a blur of classes, meals, and careful observation. Harry built his reputation slowly, deliberately, making sure to seem helpful and capable without attracting too much attention. He helped struggling students with their studies, offered advice to those who were confused, and always kept a friendly, approachable demeanor. This is what building an empire looks like. Not grand gestures and dramatic declarations, it's small moments, incremental steps. Every conversation I have, every person I help, every connection I make is a brick in the foundation of my power. He also began to notice something else, a pattern in the ways people treated him. The Slytherins were wary, watchful, waiting for him to reveal his true nature. The Gryffindors were hostile, suspicious, seeing him as a traitor to their house. The Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs were curious, intrigued by the strange boy who had chosen the House of the Cunning. I'm an anomaly. A puzzle that no one can solve. And that gives me an advantage, I'm unpredictable. No one knows what I'll do next. No one can anticipate my moves. I'm operating in the shadows, building my power in ways no one can see. But the moment that would define his first year arrived in the library, late one evening, when he stumbled upon a secret he hadn't expected to find. Harry was searching for a book on advanced potion theory when he heard the voices, two students arguing in the restricted section. He crept closer, his wand at the ready, and peered around the corner. It was Draco Malfoy and another student, a boy Harry recognized from the Hogwarts political scene, a pureblood who was known for his connections to the more radical elements of the wizarding world. I'm telling you, the boy was saying, his voice urgent. He's not what he seems. The boy who lived is a fraud. I've got proof, documents, testimonies, everything we need to expose him. Draco's eyes gleamed with barely concealed malice. Expose him as what? As a monster, the boy said. The Ministry has been covering it up for years, but I've found the truth. He's been doing things, dark things. Things that would shock the entire wizarding world. Harry's blood ran cold. He knew who they were talking about. They were talking about him. And they were planning to expose him. I need to stop them. I can't let them ruin everything, not now, not when I've come so far. But I can't be reckless. If I act too quickly, I'll reveal myself. I need to be clever, careful, strategic. He watched from the shadows as Draco and his companion parted ways, his mind already working through the possibilities. I can't kill them. That would bring too much attention. But I can discredit them. Make them seem unreliable, untrustworthy. If I can plant the seeds of doubt, make people question their credibility, their allegations will never be taken seriously. He smiled to himself, a cold, calculated expression. This is what I was born for. This is what I've been training for. The game has begun, and I'm going to win. End of Chapter 4. Chapter 5, The Prince Behind the Shadows. The Hogwarts Library at midnight was a cathedral of silence and shadow. Harry sat in the furthest corner of the restricted section, surrounded by towering shelves that seemed to lean toward him like ancient sentinels. A single candle flickered on the table before him, its flame casting dancing shadows across the pages of a book so old that the leather binding had cracked and flaked away in places. Obsidian perched on a nearby shelf, silver eyes gleaming in the darkness, watching the corridor with the patience of a predator. The Night Phoenix had become Harry's constant companion, his eyes and ears when he couldn't be everywhere at once. The first step of my plan is complete. I've established myself at Hogwarts, chosen my house, and begun building my reputation. But reputation alone won't be enough. I need power, real power, the kind that comes from knowledge and influence. And I need to build it in ways that no one can trace back to me. He studied the book before him, a treatise on advanced glamour charms and identity concealment. The magic was complex, weaving together elements of transfiguration, charms, and ancient blood magic to create disguises that were virtually undetectable. If I can master these techniques, I can create multiple identities. Each identity will control different parts of wizarding society, the ministry, the pure-blood families, the underground networks. No one will know they're all connected. No one will know they're all me. The concept was audacious, almost impossible. But Harry had spent years planning this, years studying the magical theory that would make it possible. He knew exactly what he needed to do. The first identity was the easiest, a wealthy merchant from the continent, someone with connections across the magical world but no fixed allegiance. Harry had already begun laying the groundwork, sending letters through obsidian to various contacts he'd cultivated over the past months. The name is Septimus Blackwood. A dealer in rare magical artifacts, with interests in several countries. He's known for his discretion and his willingness to pay top price for information. The ministry will want to court him. The purebloods will want to use him. And they'll never know he's an 11-year-old boy. He practiced the glamour, feeling the magic settle over him like a second skin. His features shifted, aged, transformed into a man in his late 20s with sharp cheekbones and calculating gray eyes. The voice came next, a practiced baritone that held no trace of his true identity. Septimus Blackwood, he murmured, testing the name on his tongue. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Obsidian trilled softly, and Harry allowed himself a small smile. The disguise was perfect. Even he could barely recognize himself in the reflection of the window. Now for the second identity. This one will be more difficult, a political operative, someone who can navigate the treacherous waters of the ministry without drawing attention to himself. I'll need to build a reputation, earn trust, establish connections that I can use when the time comes. He thought about the character he would create, a young ministry official, ambitious and talented, but with no family connections to speak of. Someone who could rise through the ranks on merit alone, earning the respect of his superiors without making enemies of his rivals. The name is Marcus Flint. No relation to the Quidditch player, just a coincidence. He'll be seen as a rising star in the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, someone with the talent and ambition to go far. And when the time comes, he'll be exactly where I need him to be. The glamour shifted again, and Harry became a young man in his mid-20s with sandy hair and earnest brown eyes. The voice changed to something more deferential, more eager to please. Marcus Flint, he said, his tone perfectly calibrated to convey ambition without arrogance. I'm honored to be of service. 2 identities. 2 separate spheres of influence. And I haven't even begun to create the third, the one that will control the underground networks, the criminal elements, the shadowy figures who operate outside the law. He thought about the third identity, the one that would be the most dangerous to maintain. A criminal mastermind, someone who could command respect through fear and ruthlessness. Someone who could make people do things they never thought they would do. The name is Corvus Lestrange. Distant cousin to the infamous Lestrange family, though he's always maintained his distance from their more extreme activities. He's known for his intelligence, his cruelty, and his willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. The underworld will fear him. And I'll use that fear to build an army. He practiced the glamour one more time, feeling the darkness settle over him like a shroud. Corvus Lestrange was older, in his 40s, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. The voice was cold and precise, the voice of a man who had long ago stopped caring about anything but power. Corvus Lestrange, he said, his tone flat and dangerous. I've been waiting for this moment. The weeks that followed were a blur of careful manipulation and calculated risk. Harry moved through Hogwarts as the boy who lived, the innocent first year who had surprisingly chosen Slytherin. He attended classes, made friends, and maintained the perfect facade of normalcy. But at night, when the castle slept, he transformed into his other selves. Septimus Blackwood began his work first, sending letters through obsidian to various contacts in the magical world. The merchant quickly established himself as a valuable resource, someone who could acquire rare artifacts and information that others couldn't. His reputation grew, and soon he was receiving invitations to dinners and gatherings across the magical world. This is working. The contacts are coming in, the information is flowing. Septimus Blackwood is becoming a name to reckon with, a figure who commands respect without revealing his true nature. Marcus Flint was more difficult to establish. The ministry was cautious, suspicious of anyone who appeared too ambitious too quickly. But Harry was patient, working through the channels he had created in his first life, using his knowledge of ministry politics to navigate the treacherous waters. I need to be careful here. One wrong move, and I'll draw the attention of the Aurors. But if I play my cards right, I can rise through the ranks without anyone suspecting a thing. He began by making small contributions to the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, anonymous tips, helpful suggestions, information that would make the Aurors' jobs easier. It was slow work, but Harry was in no hurry. He had all the time in the world. Corvus Lestrange was the most dangerous of all. The underworld of magical Britain was a labyrinth of alliances and betrayals, a place where trust was a liability and weakness was death. Harry moved through it carefully, using his knowledge of the criminal elements he'd encountered in his first life to make contacts and build his reputation. The Nocturne Alley network is the key. There are people there who can do things that the ministry would never sanction, spells, rituals, services that operate outside the law. If I can control them, I can control everything. He started small, making contact with a few low-level criminals, offering them protection in exchange for their loyalty. The offer was generous enough to be tempting, but not so generous that it seemed suspicious. Over time, Harry built a network of informants and enforcers who answered to Corvus Lestrange. But maintaining 3 identities was exhausting. Harry's days were filled with classes and social obligations, his nights with the constant shifting of glamours and the careful management of multiple personas. He barely slept, using potions and spells to keep himself alert and focused. The strain was beginning to show, his magical reserves were stretched thin, and even his iron will was starting to fray. I need to be careful. If I push myself too hard, I'll make a mistake. And a mistake could cost me everything. Obsidian sensed his exhaustion, trilling softly whenever Harry's eyelids began to droop. The Night Phoenix had become more than a familiar, it was a guardian, a protector, a constant presence that kept Harry grounded in the midst of his multiple lives. One more hour, Harry murmured, rubbing his tired eyes. I just need one more hour to finish this letter. The letter was to a contact in the ministry, someone who had the potential to become a valuable ally in Marcus Flint's rise. Harry had been cultivating the relationship for weeks, sending carefully worded messages that hinted at future opportunities. He's almost ready. Just a few more nudges, and he'll be in my pocket. And once he is, I'll have access to ministry secrets that even Dumbledore doesn't know. He finished the letter and sealed it with a flourish, handing it to Obsidian. The Night Phoenix took the parchment in its beak and vanished into the darkness, carrying the message to its destination. 2 down. 1 to go. And then I can rest. The discovery came on a cold November night. Harry was in the Room of Requirement, his secret base within Hogwarts, practicing the glamour spells that were essential to his plan. The room had transformed into a vast chamber filled with mirrors, each one reflecting a different identity, Septimus Blackwood, Marcus Flint, Corvus Lestrange, and a dozen others that Harry had created but not yet activated. I need to be able to switch between them instantly, seamlessly. If I hesitate, if I falter, the illusion will break. And I can't afford that, not now, not when I'm so close. He was practicing the transition from Septimus Blackwood to Marcus Flint when he noticed something strange. A shimmer in the mirror, a flicker of movement that shouldn't have been there. Who's there? He demanded, his hand going to his wand. The shimmer resolved itself into a figure, a young woman with dark hair and sharp features, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. She was dressed in the robes of a Hogwarts student, but there was something about her that seemed older, more dangerous. "Impressive," she said, her voice soft and mocking. "I've been watching you for weeks, and I never thought I'd catch you in the act. The great Harry Potter, playing at being a spy. It's almost pathetic." Harry's blood ran cold. "Who are you? What do you want?" The woman stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "My name is Arabella Fig. But you know me as something else, the Watcher, the one who visits you in your dreams. I've been following your progress, and I have to say, I'm impressed. You've come further than I expected." Harry stared at her, his mind racing. Arabella Fig, the name was familiar, a squib who had watched over him during his childhood. But the woman before him was nothing like the old lady he remembered. This was someone else entirely, someone who had been hiding in plain sight. "The Watcher," he repeated slowly. "The one who came to me in the Dursleys' house. That was you?" Arabella nodded. "Yes and no. I'm just a vessel, a conduit for the cosmic force that brought you back. It uses me to communicate with you, to guide you, to warn you. And right now, I'm here to give you another warning." "I don't need your warnings," Harry said coldly. "I've made it this far on my own." "Have you?" Arabella's eyes narrowed. "You think you've been building your power in secret, but you're not as clever as you think. There are forces in this world that can see through your glamours, that know exactly who you are and what you're doing. And they're coming for you." Harry's hand tightened on his wand. "Who?" "The pureblood families are the least of your concerns," Arabella said. "They're predictable, easy to manipulate. But there are others, ancients, beings who have existed for centuries beyond counting. They've noticed the ripples of your second life, and they're curious. They want to know what you're planning." "What do you mean?" Arabella's expression was grave. "The Watchers of the Ancient Covenant. They're guardians, protectors of the magical world's oldest secrets. They've been watching you since the day you were reborn, and they're not sure what to make of you. You're a variable they didn't anticipate, an anomaly in the pattern of destiny." Harry felt a chill run down his spine. "Are they enemies?" "I don't know," Arabella admitted. "They've always been neutral, observers rather than participants. But your actions have drawn their attention. They might try to stop you, or they might try to use you. Either way, you need to be ready." "I'm always ready," Harry said, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his heart. "I've faced worse than ancient beings and their covenants. I'll face them too." Arabella studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "You're more like him than you know." "Like who?" "Your father." Arabella's voice softened. "James Potter was reckless, brave, and utterly convinced that he could handle anything. He was wrong, of course. He died because he thought he was invincible. Don't make the same mistake." Harry's jaw tightened. "I'm nothing like my father." "Really?" Arabella's voice was sharp. "You're taking enormous risks, building a network of identities that could collapse at any moment. You're convinced that you're smarter than everyone else, that you can outmaneuver anyone who gets in your way. That's exactly what James believed. And it got him killed." Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Arabella raised a hand. "I'm not trying to be cruel, Harry. I'm trying to save you. The path you're walking is dangerous. And it's getting more dangerous with every step you take. You can't do this alone. You need allies, people you can trust." "I don't trust anyone," Harry said flatly. "Not anymore." "Then you'll die," Arabella said simply. "Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, you'll make a mistake, and that mistake will cost you everything. The only way to survive is to build something that can outlast you, something that will continue even if you fall." She stepped closer, close enough that Harry could see the ancient wisdom in her eyes. "Your empire, Harry. Your kingdom. It won't mean anything if you're the only one holding it together. You need to create something that people will fight for, something that will endure even after you're gone. That's the only way to achieve true immortality. Harry stared at her, his mind churning with possibilities. And how do I do that? Arabella smiled, a sad, knowing smile that held no comfort. By being more than just a conqueror, Harry. By being a leader. By inspiring loyalty, not just fear. By building something that people believe in, something that's bigger than any one person. I'll think about it, Harry said finally. But I'm not making any promises. That's all I ask, Arabella said. Think about it. And Harry, be careful. The Watchers are coming, and they're not the only ones. There are others who've been watching you, others who see you as a threat or an opportunity. The game is getting more complex, and the stakes are getting higher. Don't let yourself become a casualty of your own ambition. She began to fade, her form dissolving into the shadows. One more thing, she said, her voice fading. Your third identity, Corvus Lestrange. You need to be more careful with him. He's attracting the wrong kind of attention. There are people in Nocturne Alley who recognize him, who know he's not who he claims to be. If you're not careful, they'll expose you. And then she was gone. Harry stood alone in the room of requirement. His heart pounding, his mind racing. Arabella's words echoed in his head, a warning and a promise all at once. I need to be more careful. I need to build allies I can trust, people who will stand by me even when things get difficult. I need to create something that will outlast me, something that people will fight for, He looked at his reflection in the mirrors, at the faces of the identities he'd created. Each one was a part of him, a piece of the empire he was building. But they were just tools, means to an end. They weren't the real thing. I need to find people who believe in me, not just in what I can give them. I need to build a movement, not just a network. I need to be a leader, not just a manipulator, Obsidian trilled softly, landing on his shoulder, and Harry reached up to stroke the creature's feathers. Thank you, he murmured. For staying with me. For being there when no one else is. The night phoenix trilled again, and Harry felt a surge of warmth that had nothing to do with the ambient temperature. Maybe I don't have to do this alone. Maybe I can build something real, something that will last. But I need to be careful. I need to choose my allies wisely. I need to make sure that the people I bring into my inner circle are worthy of my trust, The process of building his inner circle began the next day. Harry started small, choosing students who showed promise but hadn't yet been claimed by any of the major factions. He looked for loyalty, intelligence, and the willingness to question authority. He looked for people who were ambitious but not desperate, capable but not arrogant. The first recruit is Theodore Knott. He's intelligent, observant, and deeply dissatisfied with the pureblood status quo. He doesn't want to just inherit his family's legacy, he wants to build something new. That's exactly what I need, He approached Theo in the library, striking up a conversation about advanced potion theory. The exchange was casual, friendly, and carefully designed to show Harry's intelligence without revealing his true agenda. You know, you're not what I expected, Theo said, studying Harry with curious eyes. Most Slytherins are either trying to prove themselves or trying to tear each other down. You're different. Harry smiled his practiced smile. I'm just trying to find my place in the world. Same as everyone else. Maybe. Theo's eyes narrowed. Or maybe you're playing a deeper game. I've been watching you, Potter. There's something about you that doesn't quite add up. You're too careful, too calculated. You're hiding something. Harry's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his expression neutral. Everyone has secrets, Theo. I'm sure you have yours too. Theo studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. I'll keep your secret, Potter. But I'll be watching. And if you're planning something that could hurt the people I care about, I'll stop you. Understood, Harry said. But I don't think you'll need to stop me. I think we want the same thing. And what's that? Change, Harry said simply. The wizarding world is broken, Theo. It's been broken for centuries, and no one's been able to fix it. I'm going to change that. And I could use someone like you by my side. Theo's eyes widened slightly, and Harry knew he'd made a connection. Theo was hungry for something more than the life he'd been born into, something that would let him make a mark on the world. And Harry was offering him exactly that. Tell me more, Theo said, leaning forward. And Harry did. Over the next few weeks, Harry's network grew. He recruited Blaise Zabini next, appealing to his desire for status and influence. He approached Daphne Greengrass through her sister, Astoria, promising her family's political rise in exchange for their support. He even cultivated relationships with students in other houses, Hermione Granger in Gryffindor, Padma Patil in Ravenclaw, and several Hufflepuffs who had been overlooked by the more ambitious factions. Each of them is a piece of my empire. Together, they'll form a network of loyalty that spans all of Hogwarts. They'll report to me, follow my lead, and support my goals without even knowing the full extent of what I'm planning. But it wasn't just students. Harry also reached out to faculty members, cultivating relationships with professors who might be useful in the future. He started with Professor Flitwick, who seemed impressed by his magical talent. Then Professor Sprout, who appreciated his interest in herbology. And finally, Professor Snape, who was the most difficult but also the most valuable. Snape is a double-edged sword. He hates me, but he's also loyal to Dumbledore, at least, to the image of Dumbledore he's created in his mind. If I can use that loyalty, I can manipulate him without him even realizing it. The first step was to perform well in potions. Harry made sure his work was consistently excellent, not just good enough to pass but exceptional enough to draw Snape's grudging respect. He also asked questions that showed a deep understanding of the subject, questions that impressed even the notoriously difficult professor. Interesting question, Potter, Snape said one day, his voice flat. Tell me, where did you learn about the properties of moonstone in potion making? Harry smiled his practiced smile. I read about it in a book, Professor. I've been doing some extra reading on my own. I see. Snape's eyes narrowed. And which book would that be? Advanced Potion Making, by Libacious Borage, Harry said, naming a text he'd studied extensively in his first life. It's quite fascinating. I was particularly interested in a chapter on moonstone's interactions with other ingredients. Snape studied him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. You've done your research, Potter. That's more than I expected. Harry nodded, keeping his expression neutral. I try to do my best, Professor. I know potions can be difficult, but I think the subject is fascinating. I'd love to learn more, if you'd be willing to teach me. It was a calculated risk, offering Snape a way to interact with him that didn't involve hostility. The professor was silent for a long moment, clearly weighing the offer. We'll see, Snape said finally. If you continue to perform at this level, I may consider giving you additional instruction. Thank you, Professor, Harry said, his voice filled with genuine warmth. Step 1 complete. Snape is starting to see me as more than just James Potter's son. He'll never like me, but he might learn to respect me. And that respect could be invaluable in the days to come. The biggest challenge was maintaining his multiple identities. Harry spent his days as the boy who lived, attending classes, building relationships, and carefully monitoring his growing network of followers. His nights were devoted to his other selves, Septimus Blackwood, Marcus Flint, and Corvus Lestrange. Each identity required different skills, different knowledge, different personalities. Septimus Blackwood needs to be charming, sophisticated, and utterly ruthless when it comes to business. Marcus Flint needs to be ambitious, talented, and eager to please his superiors. Corvus Lestrange needs to be cold, calculating, and willing to do whatever it takes to maintain his power. He shifted between identities with increasing ease, the glamours becoming second nature. But the strain was taking its toll. Harry felt the exhaustion in his bones, the weariness that came from living multiple lives with no rest. I need to find a way to delegate, to share the burden. I can't do this alone forever. But I also can't trust anyone with the full truth, not yet. Not until I'm sure they're worthy of it. Obsidian sensed his weariness, trilling softly whenever Harry began to flag. The Night Phoenix had become more than a companion, it was a lifeline, a constant reminder that he wasn't entirely alone. "Thank you," Harry murmured, stroking the creature's feathers. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Obsidian trilled again, and Harry felt a surge of warmth that had nothing to do with the ambient temperature. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a letter. Harry was in the Slytherin common room, ostensibly studying for his upcoming charms exam, when a tawny owl flew through the window and dropped a letter at his feet. He recognized the handwriting immediately. It was the same precise, elegant script he'd seen on the strange letter he'd received before his first year. "You are not alone. There are others who know what you are. They are watching, and they are waiting. Be careful, Harry Potter." Harry's blood ran cold. The letter was identical to the one he'd received before coming to Hogwarts, the same words, the same handwriting, the same warning. But this time, there was an addition. "They are closing in, Harry. The Watchers of the Ancient Covenant have chosen their side. They see you as a threat, a variable that must be eliminated. You have until the winter solstice to prove yourself worthy of the crown. If you fail, they will destroy you." Harry read the letter 3 times, his mind racing. The Watchers of the Ancient Covenant, Arabella's warning had been real. They were coming for him. I need to move faster. I need to master the disciplines, claim the crown, build my power. The winter solstice is less than 3 months away. I don't have time to waste. He burned the letter in the fire, watching the flames consume the parchment. Then he stood up and walked to the corner of the common room where a group of Slytherin students were gathered. "I need your help," he said, his voice low. "All of you." The students looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Theo Knott was among them, along with Blaise Zabini and Daphne Greengrass. They were the core of his network, the students who had pledged their loyalty to him. "What kind of help?" Theo asked. Harry's eyes glittered with determination. "I need to find something. Something that's been hidden in this castle for centuries. Something that no one has been able to find." "What is it?" Daphne asked. "The crown of the first Potter," Harry said. "And I need to find it before the winter solstice. Or everything I've been building will be destroyed." End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6, Defeating Enemies Without Fighting. The Slytherin common room was draped in an uneasy silence as Harry's words hung in the air like a held breath. The green-tinged light from the lake filtered through the windows, casting shifting patterns across the faces of his small gathering of followers. Theo Knott was the first to break the quiet. "The crown of the first Potter. I've heard whispers about it, an artifact of immense power, hidden somewhere in the castle. But I always thought it was a myth." "It's not a myth," Harry said, his voice low and intense. "It exists, and I need to find it before the winter solstice. If I don't, there are forces, ancient forces, that will move against me. Forces I can't defeat without the crown's power." Blaise Zabini leaned forward, his dark eyes gleaming with interest. "And what exactly would we get out of helping you?" "You're asking for a lot, Potter. Loyalty, secrecy, hard work. What's in it for us?" Harry smiled, a cold, calculated smile that promised everything and nothing. You'll have a place in my world. When I rule the wizarding world, and I will, you'll be my inner circle. My advisors, my generals, my trusted allies. You'll have power, influence, and the satisfaction of knowing that you helped build something that will last for generations. The students exchanged glances, weighing the offer. Daphne Greengrass spoke first. Fine. I'll help you. But if you betray us, if you use us as pawns and then discard us, I'll make sure you regret it. I wouldn't expect anything less, Harry said. Now, here's what I need from each of you. The first step was to neutralize his enemies. Harry knew from experience that the wizarding world was a chessboard, and every player had their pieces. Draco Malfoy was a pawn, but a dangerous one. His family's influence gave him power that belied his arrogance. Professor Snape was a wild card, loyal to Dumbledore but harboring secrets of his own. And then there were the ones who hadn't revealed themselves yet, the hidden enemies who were waiting for the right moment to strike. I need to deal with them all. Not through direct confrontation, that would expose me too quickly. But through strategy, manipulation, and the careful use of information. I need to make them destroy themselves while I stay in the shadows. The first target was Draco Malfoy. Harry observed the Malfoy heir for weeks, cataloging his habits, his weaknesses, his desires. Draco was predictable in his arrogance. He expected to be treated as superior, and he became enraged when he wasn't. He also had a deep, gnawing need to prove himself to his father, a need that made him reckless. The key to destroying Draco is to make him look foolish. Not through direct confrontation, that would just make him a victim, and that would rally support for him. But through subtle humiliation, through exposing his weaknesses in ways that make him lose face in front of his peers. The plan was simple. Harry knew that Draco had been bragging about his family's connections, claiming that his father could get him anything he wanted. He also knew that Draco had been trying to impress Professor Snape, hoping to gain the potions master's favor. So I'll give Snape a reason to be disappointed in Draco. And I'll make sure everyone sees it. The opportunity came during a potions lesson. Snape was demonstrating a complex potion, and Draco was trying to curry favor by asking ingratiating questions. Harry waited for the perfect moment, then raised his own hand. Yes, Potter. Snape's voice was flat, his expression carefully neutral. Professor, I was wondering about the properties of the essence of Dittany in the potion. The textbook says it should be added after the base has cooled, but I've read that some potioneers add it earlier to increase potency. Is that correct? Snape's eyes narrowed. An interesting question, Potter. And one that shows you've been doing your research. He paused, letting the silence stretch. For your information, adding essence of Dittany earlier does increase potency, but it also increases the risk of the potion destabilizing. It's a technique for advanced potioneers only. I see, Harry said, nodding thoughtfully. Thank you, Professor. He could see Draco's face reddening with barely contained rage. The Malfoy heir had been trying to impress Snape, and Harry had shown him up without even trying. Step 1 complete. Draco is humiliated, and everyone saw it. But that was just the beginning. Harry had more subtle methods planned. The next phase of his campaign against Draco involved information. Harry had discovered through his network that Draco's father, Lucius, had been involved in some questionable dealings with ministry officials. Nothing that would get him arrested, the Malfoys were too careful for that, but enough to cause embarrassment if it became public. If I can make Draco believe that his father's reputation is at risk, he'll do something reckless to try to protect it. And that recklessness will be his downfall. He planted the information carefully, using his network of Slytherin informants to spread rumors about Lucius Malfoy's activities. The rumors were vague enough to be deniable but specific enough to be believable. And soon, Draco was consumed with worry about his family's reputation. He's been different lately, Theo Knott observed one evening in the common room. More aggressive, more paranoid. Something's bothering him. Harry nodded, his expression carefully neutral. Maybe. He's worried about his father. I've heard rumors about Lucius Malfoy's activities, nothing concrete, but enough to be concerning. Interesting, Theo said. Very interesting. The trap was set. Draco, desperate to prove his loyalty to his family and his house, would do something foolish. And Harry would be there to catch him. The confrontation came in the middle of the night. Harry was in the room of requirement, studying the texts from the Potter vault, when he felt a disturbance in the wards. Someone was approaching, someone who shouldn't be there. He slipped into the shadows, his wand at the ready, and watched as Draco Malfoy entered the room. The Malfoy heir was sweating, his hands trembling, his eyes wild with desperation. "Potter," he called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. "I know you're here. Show yourself." Harry remained silent, watching. He needed to understand what Draco was planning before he revealed himself. "I know what you're doing," Draco continued, his voice cracking. "I know you've been spreading rumors about my father. Trying to destroy my family's reputation. Well, it won't work. I'm going to stop you, whatever it takes." Harry stepped out of the shadows, his expression calm. "Draco. You shouldn't be here. This place isn't safe. Don't you dare lecture me." Draco's face was twisted with rage. "You think you're so clever, don't you? The boy who lived, pretending to be innocent while you scheme in the shadows. But I've seen through you. I know what you really are." "And what is that?" Harry asked, his voice soft. "A monster." Draco's wand was pointed at Harry's chest. "You're a monster, Potter. And I'm going to expose you for what you really are. Everyone will know the truth." Harry's smile was cold. "You're right, Draco. I am a monster. But I'm also a lot smarter than you. And smarter people always win." He raised his wand, not to attack, but to defend. The shield charm went up just as Draco's curse flew toward him, and the spell deflected harmlessly off the invisible barrier. Draco stared at him in disbelief. "How did you?" "Years of practice," Harry said. "You should try it sometime. It might help you survive long enough to grow up." Draco snarled and cast another curse, a Cruciatus curse, illegal and unforgivable. Harry's blood ran cold as he recognized the spell, and he reacted on instinct. Expelliarmus. Draco's wand flew out of his hand, clattering across the floor. The Malfoy heir stared at his empty hand in shock, then at Harry with a mixture of rage and terror. You can't do this," he stammered. "I'm a Malfoy. My father will." "Your father will what?" Harry's voice was ice cold. "He'll try to destroy me. He'll use his influence to have me expelled. He's already tried all of that, and none of it worked. Because I'm not afraid of you, Draco. I'm not afraid of your father. And I'm not afraid of what you might do." He walked slowly toward Draco, his footsteps echoing in the silence. "You came here tonight to destroy me," Harry said. "You came here with dark magic, with curses that would get you expelled, or worse. And you failed. You failed because you're not strong enough, smart enough, or ruthless enough to beat me." Draco's face was pale, his body trembling. "What are you going to do to me?" Harry's smile was cold. "Nothing, Draco. I'm not going to do anything to you. Because I don't need to. You've already destroyed yourself." "What are you talking about?" "Your wand," Harry said, gesturing to the wand on the floor. "It's registered at the Ministry. The trace will have recorded the spell you just cast. The Cruciatus curse. An unforgivable. Do you know what happens to wizards who cast unforgivables?" Draco's face went white. "You're lying. The trace doesn't." "It does," Harry said. "Especially when I make sure it does. I've already contacted the Ministry. They'll be here any minute now to take you into custody. Draco's eyes were wide with terror. Please. Potter, please don't. I'll do anything. Anything you want. Just don't let them take me. Harry studied him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. Fine. I'll give you a chance. But you have to earn it. What do you want me to do? From now on, you'll serve me, Harry said. You'll be my eyes and ears in Slytherin. You'll report to me every day. And if you ever betray me, if you ever try to hurt me or anyone I care about, I'll make sure the Ministry knows exactly what you did tonight. Do we have an understanding? Draco nodded frantically. Yes. Yes, I understand. I'll do whatever you want. Good. Harry's smile returned, warmer now but no less dangerous. Now get out of here. And remember, I'm always watching. The next target was Professor Snape. Harry had been cultivating a relationship with the potions master for weeks, but he knew that Snape's loyalty was ultimately to Dumbledore. If he was going to neutralize Snape, he needed to create a wedge between the professor and the headmaster. Snape's greatest weakness is his guilt. He's never forgiven himself for his role in Lily's death, and that guilt makes him easy to manipulate. If I can convince him that Dumbledore is planning to use me the same way he used my mother, I can turn Snape into an ally, or at least, neutralize him as a threat. The first step was to plant the seed of doubt. Harry started by asking innocent questions about Dumbledore's leadership, about the decisions the headmaster had made during the war. He made sure to seem confused, not suspicious, just a boy trying to understand the world he'd been born into. Professor, he said one day after class, I've been reading about the war against you-know-who. About the decisions Dumbledore made, the people he sacrificed. I don't understand, couldn't he have done more? Couldn't he have stopped it? Snape's face was unreadable, but Harry could see the conflict in his eyes. The headmaster did what he thought was best, Potter. Sometimes, difficult decisions must be made. But at what cost? Harry pressed. All those people who died. All those families who were destroyed. Couldn't he have been more careful? Couldn't he have protected them better? Snape was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Sometimes, the ones we love most are the ones we fail. It's a lesson I've learned too well. Harry nodded, his expression sympathetic. I understand, Professor. I really do. It's just. I don't want to be a victim of someone else's difficult decisions. I want to be in control of my own destiny. Snape looked at him with an expression Harry couldn't quite read. You're more like your mother than you know, Potter. She also wanted to be in control of her own destiny. And look what happened to her. I'm not my mother, Harry said quietly. And I'm not going to make the same mistakes she did. The final piece of the puzzle was the political dimension. Harry knew that the wizarding world was run by a complex web of alliances and rivalries, and that the key to power was navigating that web successfully. He needed to build influence in the Ministry, in the pureblood families, and in the underground networks that operated beneath the surface. The first step is to eliminate my rivals. Not through violence, that would draw too much attention. But through strategic information, through exposing their weaknesses, through making them seem foolish or corrupt. He started with the Ministry officials who were most vulnerable, the ones who had secrets they couldn't afford to have exposed. Through his network of contacts, Harry gathered information about their activities, their relationships, their hidden agendas. The Department of Magical Law Enforcement is full of corrupt officials who take bribes from the pure-blood families. If I can expose them, I can replace them with people who are loyal to me. People who will help me build my empire. He started small, planting rumors about a junior official who had been taking money from the Malfoy family. The rumors spread quickly, and soon the official was under investigation. He was eventually forced to resign, and Harry's ally, a young wizard who had been cultivated by Marcus Flint, was appointed to fill the vacancy. Step 1 complete. The ministry is starting to move in my direction. But I need to be patient, real change takes time. I can't expect to control everything overnight. The summer was over, and Harry had accomplished more than he'd ever dreamed possible. He had neutralized his enemies, built a network of loyal followers, and established multiple identities that controlled different parts of wizarding society. He had begun the process of building an empire that would last for generations, an empire that would reshape the wizarding world. But as he sat in the room of requirement, surrounded by the books and artifacts that would help him achieve his goals, Harry felt a sense of unease that he couldn't quite shake. Something's wrong. I'm winning the battles, but I'm not sure I'm winning the war. There are forces at work that I don't fully understand, forces that are beyond my control. The Watchers of the Ancient Covenant, 4-1. Arabella's warnings. The others who were sent back in time to oppose me, *. He looked at the crown, still resting on its pedestal in the center of the room. The gems glowed with inner light, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. The crown is the key. If I can claim it, I'll have the power to defeat any enemy. But the crown comes with a price, Morgana warned me about that. It will take something from me. Something precious. Something I might not be able to get back, *. Obsidian trilled softly, and Harry reached up to stroke the creature's feathers. I don't know if I'm ready, he admitted. I don't know if I can do this alone. The night phoenix trilled again, and Harry felt a surge of warmth that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside him. Maybe I don't have to do it alone, he said slowly. Maybe I can build an army. An army of people who believe in me, who will fight for me, who will help me achieve my goals. He thought about the followers he'd already recruited, Theo, Blaze, Daphne, and the others. They were talented and loyal, but they were also students, young and inexperienced. He needed more. He needed allies who were older, more powerful, more connected. I need to reach out to the broader wizarding world. I need to make connections with the key players, the ones who control the money, the information, the power. I need to build an empire that extends beyond Hogwarts, beyond Britain, beyond everything I've known, *. He stood up, his resolve hardening. The path ahead was difficult, but he had no choice. He had come too far to give up now. Obsidian, he said, I need you to deliver some messages. Important messages. To people who will help me build my empire. The night phoenix trilled in acknowledgement, and Harry began to write. The first letter was to the goblins of Gringotts. Harry knew that the goblins would be suspicious of any new initiative, but he also knew that they were pragmatic. If he could offer them something they wanted, they would help him. * to Griphook, Chief of the Ancient Vaults *. I have discovered information that may be of interest to your people. Information about the lost treasures of the Goblin Kingdoms, treasures that have been hidden for centuries. I am willing to share this information in exchange for your assistance in certain matters, *. Yours in confidence. Septimus Blackwood. The second letter was to a contact in the ministry. Harry had been cultivating this relationship for months, and he knew that the contact was ready to take the next step. To Reginald Cattermole, Department of Magical Law Enforcement *. I have reason to believe that certain officials in your department are acting in ways that are detrimental to the interests of the ministry. I have information that could help you root out these corrupt elements and advance your own career in the process, *. Let me know if you're interested in learning more. Yours in confidence. A friend. The third letter was to a contact in the underworld. Harry knew that the criminal elements of magical Britain were dangerous, but they were also useful. If he could make an alliance with them, he would have access to resources that no one else could provide. To the attention of the Guild of Shadows *. I have a proposition that may be of interest to your organization. Information. Money. Power. All of these are available to those who are willing to work with me, asterisk. I await your response. Corvus Lestrange. Harry sealed the letters and handed them to Obsidian. The night phoenix took them in its beak and vanished into the shadows, carrying his messages to their destinations. Now I wait, Harry thought. Asterisk, I've set the wheels in motion. All I have to do is see where they lead, asterisk. The responses came faster than he expected. Griphook was interested in his offer, requesting a meeting to discuss the details. Reginald Catamol was eager to learn more about the corruption in his department. And the Guild of Shadows was intrigued by Corvus Lestrange's proposition. Asterisk, everything is falling into place. But I need to be careful. I can't let my success make me arrogant. The wizarding world is full of dangers, and I've only just begun to face them, asterisk. He thought about the warning from the Watcher, the threat of the Watchers of the Ancient Covenant. They were coming for him, and he needed to be ready. Asterisk, the winter solstice is less than 2 months away. I need to master the disciplines, claim the crown, and prepare for the coming confrontation. I can't afford to waste time, asterisk. But even as he planned his next move, Harry felt a flicker of doubt. Was he becoming what he'd always feared? Was he losing himself in the pursuit of power? It doesn't matter, he told himself. Firmly. Asterisk, the ends justify the means. I'm building a better world. A world where no one has to suffer like I suffered. A world where everyone has a chance to achieve their potential. That's worth any sacrifice, asterisk. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, the face of a boy who had seen too much, lived too much, been through too much. The face of a boy who had become something he'd never expected to be. I'm not a hero anymore, he thought. Asterisk, maybe I never was. But I'm going to be something else. Something better. Something that the wizarding world has never seen before, asterisk. Obsidian landed on his shoulder, trilling softly, and Harry stroked the creature's feathers. Let's get to work, he said. We've got an empire to build. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. The Chamber of Secrets Reclaimed. The cold seeped through Harry's robes like fingers of ice as he descended into the darkness beneath Hogwarts. The passageway was narrow, ancient, carved from rough stone that bore the marks of centuries, scratches from creatures long dead, symbols that predated the castle itself. A single torch flickered in his hand, casting dancing shadows across the walls that seemed to move with a life of their own. Obsidian perched on his shoulder, silver eyes gleaming in the dim light, alert and watchful. The night phoenix had been unsettled since they'd entered the passageway, trilling softly whenever the shadows grew too deep. Asterisk, I remember this place. The first time I came here, I was scared and desperate, following a trail of clues that led me to a basilisk and a memory of a boy who would become my greatest enemy. I nearly died in this chamber. This time, I'm not coming as a scared child. I'm coming as a conqueror, asterisk. Harry's wand was in his hand, his magic coiled and ready. He had spent weeks researching the Chamber of Secrets, studying the texts he'd found in the Potter Vault and cross-referencing them with the information he remembered from his first life. He knew what was waiting for him at the end of this tunnel, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do with it. Asterisk, the basilisk is the key. A creature of immense power, bound to the heir of Slytherin. In my first life, I killed it with a sword. But that was a waste. A creature like that could be a weapon, a guardian, a symbol of power. If I can tame it, I'll have an ally that no one can match, asterisk. He reached a stone wall that was covered in carvings, serpents coiled together in an intricate pattern that seemed to writhe in the torchlight. Harry remembered the password from his first life, but he also remembered something else, the true nature of the chamber, the secrets that had been hidden within for centuries. Asterisk, the password is open, in Parseltongue. But there's more to it than that. The Chamber of Secrets isn't just a room, it's a magical construct, a fortress that responds only to the will of the heir. If I can claim it as my own, I'll have a base that no one can breach. A headquarters for my empire, asterisk. He spoke the word, his voice hissing and sibilant in the darkness. Open. The walls split apart, revealing a vast, dark space beyond. Harry stepped forward, his heart pounding with anticipation. The Chamber of Secrets. The heart of Slytherin's legacy. And now, it's going to be mine, The chamber was vast, larger than the Great Hall, larger than any room Harry had ever seen. The ceiling was lost in shadows, the pillars that supported it carved with serpentine patterns that seemed to move in the torchlight. At the far end of the chamber, a massive stone face stared down at him with eyes that glowed with ancient malice. Salazar Slytherin's face. The founder of the house, the architect of this place, the man who had built this chamber to guard his most precious secrets. I remember you. The first time I came here, I was terrified of you. You represented everything I was fighting against: blood purity, elitism, the belief that some wizards are better than others. But I've learned since then. There's truth in what you believed, even if it was twisted by the generations who came after you. He approached the statue, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. The serpentine face seemed to watch him, its stone eyes tracking his movement with an intelligence that was almost human. I am the heir of Slytherin, Harry said, his voice ringing through the chamber. I claim this place in the name of Salazar Slytherin. I claim its secrets, its power, its legacy. And I demand that you reveal to me what is hidden within. The stone face remained motionless for a long moment. Then, slowly, the mouth began to open, a massive circular opening that yawned wide, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the light. The basilisk's lair. It's waiting for me. And this time, I'm not going to kill it. Harry stepped forward, his wand raised, his magic ready. He could feel the creature's presence, ancient and powerful, stirring in the darkness below. Come forth, he commanded, his voice echoing in the depths. I am your master. I command you to appear. The darkness stirred, and Harry felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. A massive shape began to emerge from the opening, scales the color of emerald, eyes like twin suns burning with fury, a mouth filled with fangs as long as his arm. The basilisk. In his first life, Harry had faced this creature with nothing but a sword and a desperate prayer. He had been terrified, adrenaline coursing through his veins, barely able to keep his eyes closed against the creature's killing gaze. But this time was different. This time, he was prepared. Look at me, Harry commanded, his voice filled with ancient power. Look at me and know who I am. The basilisk's eyes met his, and Harry felt the magic surge through him, ancient and powerful, a connection that linked him to the creature's very soul. He had studied the old texts, learned the rituals that the first potters had used to bind creatures to their will. And now, he was using that knowledge. Benio sanguis vinculum. The blood binding. A ritual that connects the caster to a creature through the essence of their magic. If I can complete it, the basilisk will be bound to me forever, loyal, obedient, impossible to turn against me. Harry raised his wand and began to speak, his voice rising and falling in a pattern that predated human language. The words were ancient, powerful, resonant with magic that had been lost for centuries. He felt the basilisks were resisting him, a fierce, primal defiance that wanted to crush him, destroy him, end his threat forever. But Harry had come prepared. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small vial filled with a shimmering liquid, his own blood, mixed with the essence of night phoenix feathers and the tears of a fox that was no longer in this world. The potion was powerful, dangerous, illegal in most magical jurisdictions. But Harry didn't care about laws. He cared about winning. With a swift motion, he opened the vial and poured its contents across the basilisk's scales. The creature shrieked, a sound that felt like it would shatter his bones, as the magic began to take hold. Benio sanguis vinculum. Harry shouted, his voice filled with power. I bind thee to me. Thou shalt serve me, obey me, and protect me until the end of days. The basilisk writhed, its massive body thrashing against the stone walls of its lair. But Harry held firm, his will unyielding, his magic flowing through him like a river. He could feel the creature's resistance crumbling, feel its will being subsumed by his own. And then, suddenly, it stopped. The basilisk went still, its massive head lowering to the ground in a gesture of submission. Its eyes, still bright with ancient power, were no longer hostile. They were, accepting. Accepting him as its master. "It is done," Harry breathed, his heart pounding in his chest. "You are mine." The basilisk made a sound, a low, rumbling hiss that seemed to contain the weight of centuries. Harry understood it instinctively. Asterisk, "I acknowledge you, master. I serve you until the end of days." Asterisk. Harry smiled, a cold, satisfied smile that promised nothing but pain for his enemies. "Good. Then let's get started." The chamber beneath the statue was vast, even larger than the room above. Harry descended into the depths with the basilisk slithering behind him, its massive body filling the passageway with its presence. Asterisk, the Chamber of Secrets isn't just one room. It's a complex, a network of tunnels and spaces that Salazar Slytherin built to hide his most precious treasures. There are artifacts here that the wizarding world has been looking for centuries. And now, they're mine, asterisk. He found the first cache within minutes. A hidden room filled with ancient texts, scrolls and books bound in leather and other materials that Harry couldn't identify. The knowledge contained within was priceless, and Harry knew immediately that he had found something that would change everything. Asterisk, these are Salazar Slytherin's personal journals. His thoughts, his theories, his research. He was one of the greatest wizards in history, and he wrote down everything. This knowledge could reshape the wizarding world, and I'm going to be the one to use it, asterisk. He carefully packed the journals into his magically expanded bag, making sure to handle them with the reverence they deserved. He would need to study them carefully, to absorb every piece of knowledge they contained. The next cache was more practical, a room filled with weapons and armor, ancient artifacts that had been forged with magic that was no longer known. Harry recognized some of them immediately: swords that could cut through any shield, shields that could deflect any spell, armor that could protect against the darkest curses. Asterisk, these could outfit an army. An army that would be loyal to me, that would follow me anywhere. But I need to be careful, if I reveal this too soon, I'll attract attention I can't afford. I need to build my army slowly, carefully, one soldier at a time, asterisk. The final cache was the most important. Harry found it in the deepest part of the chamber, a small room that seemed to have been sealed for centuries. The door was covered in runes, ancient, powerful, designed to keep out anyone who wasn't worthy. But Harry's blood, the blood of the Potters, seemed to resonate with the magic, and the door opened at his touch. Inside was a single object, a book. It was bound in dark leather, its cover marked with a symbol that Harry recognized immediately. The symbol of the Hogwarts founders, the four houses united in a single crest. Asterisk, the Book of the Founders. The legendary text that contains the secrets of Hogwarts itself. It was thought to be lost centuries ago, and no one has ever been able to find it. But I've found it. And now I'm going to use it, asterisk. He picked up the book, feeling the weight of its pages, the pulse of its magic. It seemed to hum in his hands, a low vibration that resonated with the deepest parts of his being. Asterisk, this book contains the secrets of the castle itself. Its history, its magic, its weaknesses. If I can master it, I'll be able to control Hogwarts in ways that even the headmaster can't imagine, asterisk. The next few hours were spent exploring the chamber, cataloging its treasures, and learning its secrets. Harry discovered hidden rooms filled with gold and jewels, with potions and ingredients that had been lost for centuries, with weapons and artifacts that could change the balance of power in the wizarding world. Asterisk, this place is a goldmine. With the basilisk as my guardian, I can use it as my headquarters, my base of operations. No one will ever be able to find me here. No one will ever be able to stop me, asterisk. But the most important discovery was still to come. Harry had been studying the Book of the Founders, trying to understand its secrets, when he noticed something strange. A passage that seemed to shift and change as he read it, revealing information that wasn't there a moment before. The book is alive. It's a magical construct, designed to reveal its secrets only to those who are worthy. And it's showing me something important, He read the passage carefully, his eyes widening with surprise and understanding. The Chamber of Secrets is not just a place of darkness. It is a place of power, a nexus of magical energy that can be harnessed by the worthy. Deep beneath the chamber lies the heart of Hogwarts, the source of the castle's power. Only the true heir can access it, and only the true heir can use it to its full potential. The heart of Hogwarts. Harry had heard rumors about it, whispers of a power that existed beneath the castle, a force that sustained the school's magic. He had always assumed it was a myth. But it's real. It's real, and it's hidden beneath this chamber. And I'm going to find it, The descent into the heart of Hogwarts was the most difficult journey Harry had ever made. The tunnel was narrow and treacherous, filled with traps and guardians that were designed to kill anyone who wasn't the true heir. Harry used his knowledge of ancient magic to navigate the obstacles, his wand never leaving his hand, his senses stretched to their limit. A Dementor's Kiss Trap. A room filled with cursed artifacts. A corridor that seemed to stretch on forever, designed to drive travelers mad with exhaustion. Salazar Slytherin was paranoid, brilliant, and utterly ruthless. He built this place to keep out everyone except himself, But Harry was more than just a wizard. He was a survivor, a warrior, a master of magic that no one else in the wizarding world could understand. He used his knowledge to bypass the traps, to neutralize the guardians, to push through the obstacles that were meant to keep him out. And finally, he arrived at the heart of Hogwarts. The chamber was smaller than the others, but it pulsed with a power that made Harry's magic tremble in response. In the center of the room, a single crystal floated above an ancient stone pedestal, its surface glittering with an inner light that seemed to hold the very essence of magic. This is it. The heart of Hogwarts. The source of the castle's power. And it's mine if I can claim it, Harry stepped forward, reaching out to touch the crystal. But his fingers stopped an inch from its surface, held back by a force that seemed to resist him. I need to prove myself worthy. I need to show the castle that I'm the true heir, the one who will use its power for the right purposes, He closed his eyes, focusing on his magic, his will, his determination. He thought about everything he had suffered, everything he had lost, everything he had become. And he let that power flow through him, a river of magic that seemed to connect him to the very essence of Hogwarts itself. The crystal began to glow brighter, responding to his presence. And then, slowly, it sank toward him, settling into his outstretched palms. The heart of Hogwarts is mine. I have claimed the source of the castle's power. And no one, not Dumbledore, not Voldemort, not anyone, will ever be able to take it from me, He looked at the crystal in his hands, feeling its magic flow through him, connecting him to the castle in ways he'd never imagined. He could feel everything, the students sleeping in their beds, the professors patrolling the halls, the ancient magic that filled every stone and shadow of the castle. I am the master of Hogwarts now. I control its power, its secrets, its very essence. And I'm going to use that power to build my empire, Harry spent the next few days exploring the Chamber of Secrets and its hidden depths. He discovered more secrets, hidden rooms filled with treasures, ancient texts that contained forgotten knowledge, and the remains of creatures that had lived and died beneath the castle for centuries. He also spent time with the basilisk, learning to understand its needs and desires. The creature was ancient and powerful, but it was also lonely. It had been trapped in the chamber for centuries, waiting for a master who would give it purpose. I'm not going to keep you trapped here, Harry said, stroking the creature's massive head. You deserve more than that. You deserve to see the sun again, to feel the wind on your scales. But I need to be careful, the wizarding world isn't ready for you yet. They'd try to destroy you, to use you for their own purposes. I won't let that happen. The basilisk made a low sound of contentment, and Harry could feel its gratitude through their bond. One day, he promised, I'll show you the world. And everyone will know that you are my ally, my protector, my friend. But until then, we keep this place a secret. All of it. The basilisk's massive head dipped in acknowledgement, and Harry smiled. This is just the beginning. I've claimed the Chamber of Secrets, claimed the basilisk, claimed the secrets of Hogwarts itself. But there's still so much more to do. I need to build my army, master the disciplines, claim the crown, and prepare for the coming confrontation. He looked around the vast chamber, at the treasures and secrets that surrounded him. This is my kingdom. My empire begins here, in the darkness beneath Hogwarts. And when I'm done, the entire wizarding world will be mine. But even as he celebrated his victory, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The heart of Hogwarts had accepted him, but he could feel something else in its magic, a shadow, a presence that seemed to be watching him from the depths of the castle's power. What is it? What else is hiding in this castle that I don't know about? He probed the castle's magic, trying to understand the source of the presence. But it was elusive, slipping away from his grasp whenever he thought he'd found it. Whatever it is, it's ancient. Older than the castle itself. And it's been waiting for me. Harry's blood ran cold. He thought about the Watcher, about the warnings, about the cosmic force that had sent him back. And he realized that the castle was hiding more than just secrets. It's hiding something. Something that could change everything. But he didn't have time to investigate further. He needed to focus on his immediate goals, mastering the disciplines, claiming the crown, preparing for the winter solstice. I'll deal with it when I'm ready, he told himself. For now, I have everything I need. The Chamber of Secrets, the basilisk, the secrets of Hogwarts itself. I'm stronger than I've ever been. And I'm going to win. He walked out of the chamber, leaving the darkness behind him. But even as he emerged into the light, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was watching him. Whoever you are, he thought, whatever you want with me, you'll have to get in line. Because I'm coming for everything. The darkness in the Chamber of Secrets seemed to laugh, a whisper of sound that echoed in the depths of the castle. And somewhere in the shadows, something ancient and terrible began to stir. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8, The Rise of the Hidden Order. The Room of Requirement had transformed into something magnificent. Harry stood at its center, surrounded by a circle of enchanted mirrors that reflected not his face, but the faces of those who had pledged themselves to his cause. Each mirror pulsed with a soft blue light, a connection forged through ancient magic that bound his followers to him across any distance. The Hidden Order. That's what they're calling themselves now. A secret society of wizards and witches who believe in a new vision for the wizarding world, one based on merit, not blood. One where power belongs to those who earn it, not those who inherit it. The recruitment had been slow at first. Harry had been careful, selective, choosing only those who demonstrated both talent and loyalty. But as word spread about the mysterious organization that was changing the balance of power in magical Britain, more and more people came forward, wanting to be part of something greater than themselves. Theo is my second in command. He's proven himself loyal and capable, with a strategic mind that rivals my own. Blaise Zabini handles our financial operations, using his family's connections to funnel resources to our cause. Daphne Greengrass manages our intelligence network, gathering information from every corner of the wizarding world. He looked at the mirrors, at the faces of his followers. There were dozens of them now, students from every house, young wizards and witches who had grown disillusioned with the old ways. There were also older allies, ministry officials who had been cultivated by Marcus Flint, merchants who had been recruited by Septimus Blackwood, and underworld figures who had been seduced by Corvus Lestrange's promises of power. We're growing faster than I ever expected. But I need to be careful, the more we grow, the more attention we attract. The ministry is starting to notice us. Dumbledore is starting to suspect something is wrong. And Voldemort. Voldemort is still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. The first major test of the Hidden Order came in the form of a crisis. Harry was in the room of requirement, reviewing intelligence reports from Daphne's network, when Obsidian appeared through the shadows, a letter clutched in its beak. Harry took the letter and read it quickly, his expression darkening. The Ministry is planning a raid on a suspected Death Eater safe house. They've identified several of our undercover agents as potential collaborators. If they're arrested, they'll be interrogated, and under Veritaserum, they might reveal everything about our organization. He read the letter again, his mind racing through the possibilities. He couldn't let his agents be captured. They knew too much about his operations, about his network, about the Hidden Order. If the Ministry got that information, everything he'd built would be destroyed. I need to warn them. I need to get them out before the raid happens. But I also need to make sure the Ministry doesn't become suspicious about how they escaped. If they realize someone tipped them off, they'll start investigating, and that investigation could lead back to me. He thought about his options, weighing the risks and benefits of each approach. Then he smiled, a cold, calculating smile that promised nothing but destruction for his enemies. I know exactly what to do. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Harry used his network of identities to plant false intelligence with the Ministry. Through Marcus Flint, he leaked information suggesting that the Death Eater safe house was actually a trap, that the Death Eaters knew about the raid and were planning to ambush the Aurors. The Ministry's leadership was skeptical at first, but Flint's reputation was growing, and his sources had been reliable in the past. After careful consideration, the raid was postponed. And while the Ministry dithers, I'll extract my agents. They'll be given new identities, new locations, new roles within the Hidden Order. The Ministry will never know they were there. Harry's agents were extracted within days, moved to safe houses across Britain and the continent. The Ministry's delayed raid found nothing, an empty building, stripped of any incriminating evidence. The Aurors returned to headquarters confused and frustrated, unable to understand how their intelligence had been so wrong. Step 1 complete. The Ministry is confused, my agents are safe, and no one suspects a thing. But I can't afford to be complacent. This was just a small victory. The real battles are yet to come. The second test came from within. Harry was in the Slytherin common room, ostensibly studying for his potions exam, when Theodore Nott approached him with a troubled expression. Harry, we have a problem. Theo's voice was low, carefully controlled. There's been a leak. Someone in our network has been talking to the Ministry. Harry's blood ran cold. Who? We don't know yet. But we've traced the source to someone in the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. One of our contacts there has been passing information to a rival faction, someone who's been trying to undermine our operations. Harry nodded slowly, his mind working through the implications. A leak was dangerous. It could expose everything, destroy everything he'd built. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to send a message, to show his enemies what happened to those who crossed the Hidden Order. I'll handle it, Harry said. Keep this quiet. Don't tell anyone else. I need to deal with this personally. Theo nodded and disappeared into the shadows of the common room. Harry sat alone for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood up and walked toward the door. Time to send a message. The traitor's name was Reginald Wainwright, a mid-level ministry official who had been passing information to a rival organization, one that had been trying to expose the hidden order for months. Harry had expected something like this. In any organization, there were always those who were tempted by the promise of power, who were willing to betray their allies for personal gain. The key was to identify them before they caused too much damage. Wainwright was recruited by the Guild of Shadows, a group that wants to take over the Hidden Order's operations. They've been watching us for months, waiting for an opportunity to strike. And they thought they'd found one in Wainwright. Harry didn't confront Wainwright directly. That would have been too obvious, too risky. Instead, he used his network of identities to spread false information, intelligence that made Wainwright seem unreliable, untrustworthy, a liability to his new allies. The Guild of Shadows is pragmatic. They'll abandon anyone who seems like a risk. And Wainwright, with his history of betrayals, is exactly the kind of risk they can't afford. Within weeks, Wainwright was cut off from the Guild of Shadows. His career was ruined, his reputation destroyed. And he had no idea who had orchestrated his downfall. Message sent. The Hidden Order protects its own. And those who betray us, they'll pay the price. But not all of Harry's victories were won through subtlety. The Hidden Order was growing, and with growth came conflict. The old powers of the wizarding world, the pureblood families, the ministry, the remnants of Voldemort's followers, were starting to notice the new organization that was challenging their dominance. And they weren't happy. The first open confrontation came at the Yule Ball. Harry had been invited, as the boy who lived, the Slytherin heir, the rising star of the wizarding world. He attended with his followers, a show of unity and power that was meant to send a message to the old guard. The ballroom was magnificent, filled with ice sculptures and enchanted snow that swirled through the air. Harry moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his eyes scanning for threats, his magic coiled and ready. And then I saw him. Lucius Malfoy. He was watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. And he wasn't alone. With him were other pureblood leaders, the heads of the old families, the ones who had been plotting to restore the old order, to return to the days when blood determined power. They were meeting in the shadows, whispering among themselves, their eyes fixed on Harry with suspicion and fear. "They're afraid of you," Daphne Greengrass murmured, appearing at Harry's side. "They see you as a threat, the boy who lived, the Slytherin who could unite the houses, the leader of a movement that challenges everything they believe in." Harry nodded, his expression neutral. "Good. Let them be afraid. Fear is the beginning of respect." He moved through the crowd, greeting the pureblood leaders with practiced courtesy. He made small talk, asked about their families, their businesses, their plans for the future. And all the while, he was gathering information, planting seeds of doubt, building the foundation for his eventual victory. They think they're in control. They think they can manipulate me, use me for their own purposes. But they're wrong. I'm the one in control here. I'm the one who's going to reshape the wizarding world. The confrontation came later that night. Harry was in the garden, enjoying a moment of solitude, when Lucius Malfoy appeared from the shadows. The older wizard's face was composed, but there was a cold fury in his eyes that Harry recognized immediately. "Potter." Malfoy's voice was smooth, controlled. "I've been looking for you." Harry turned to face him, his expression calm. "Mr. Malfoy. What a surprise. I thought you'd be too busy plotting against me to bother with personal conversation." Malfoy's eyes narrowed. "What do you know about my plotting?" "I know everything," Harry said simply. "I know about your meetings, your alliances, your plans to restore the old order. I know about your secret conversations with the Death Eaters, your attempts to undermine the Ministry, your efforts to destroy anyone who threatens your family's power." Malfoy's face went pale. "You're lying." "Am I?" Harry smiled. "I know about the meeting you had with the Guild of Shadows last month. I know about the money you've been funneling to their organization. I know about the plans you've been making to consolidate power in the wizarding world. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. And I know that you're afraid of me. You're afraid of what I represent. You're afraid that I'll destroy everything you've built. You can't touch me, Malfoy snarled. I'm protected. My family has connections that go back centuries. If you try to move against me, I'll destroy you. No, you won't, Harry said. Because you can't afford. 2. If you try to destroy me, I'll expose everything, every secret, every alliance, every dirty deal you've ever made. Your reputation will be ruined. Your family will be destroyed. And you'll be left with nothing. Malfoy stared at him, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded. What do you want? He asked. What would it take to make you stop? Your cooperation, Harry said. Your allegiance. Your willingness to work with me, not against me. If you agree to support the Hidden Order, I'll protect you. I'll make sure you keep your money, your influence, your position in society. But if you try to betray me... He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. I'll destroy you, Harry finished. Completely. Totally. And I'll enjoy every minute of it. Malfoy was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Fine. I'll cooperate. But if you betray me, if you try to use me as a pawn and then discard me, I'll make you regret it. I wouldn't expect anything less, Harry said. Now, let's talk about the future. Specifically, what you're going to do for me. The alliance with Lucius Malfoy was a turning point for the Hidden Order. With Malfoy's support, Harry gained access to the pure-blood networks that controlled so much of Wizarding Britain. He gained influence in the Ministry, in the banks, in the underground organizations that operated beneath the surface of magical society. And he gained the respect, if not the loyalty, of the old families who had been opposing him. Malfoy is not a friend. He'll never be a friend. But he's a useful ally, and that's what matters. As long as he believes that cooperating with me is in his best interest, he'll continue to support my cause. And by the time he realizes the truth, it will be too late to stop me, *. But the alliance with Malfoy also brought new challenges. The pure-blood families were fractious, divided by old rivalries and personal grudges. Harry had to navigate these conflicts carefully, balancing the interests of different factions while maintaining his own authority. The Blacks are allied with Malfoy, but they resent his dominance. The Knots are loyal to me, but they're suspicious of the Malfoy influence. The Greengrasses are neutral, but they're watching to see which way the wind blows. I need to keep all of them satisfied without giving too much power to any single faction. He spent hours in meetings, negotiating agreements, smoothing over conflicts, building the alliances that would support his growing empire. It was exhausting work, but Harry was determined to succeed. This is what leadership looks like. It's not just about power, it's about managing people, balancing interests, building a coalition that can survive any challenge. And I'm going to be the best leader the wizarding world has ever seen. The Hidden Order continued to grow. Harry's followers spread across magical Britain, infiltrating the Ministry, the banks, the schools, the underground networks that controlled so much of the world. They recruited new members, established safe houses, and built a network of loyalty that was unparalleled in the history of magical organizations. The key to our success is secrecy. The Ministry knows we exist, but they don't know who we are. They don't know where we meet, how we communicate, or what we're planning. And that gives us a tremendous advantage. But Harry knew that secrecy alone wouldn't be enough. Eventually, he would have to reveal himself, to show the wizarding world who was really in control. And when that moment came, he needed to be ready. I need to master the disciplines. I need to claim the crown. I need to build an army that can defeat any opponent. And I need to do it all before the winter solstice, before the Watchers of the Ancient Covenant come for me, asterisk. He looked at the calendar on his desk, counting the days until the winter solstice. They were running out. But Harry had never been more determined to succeed. Asterisk, I'll do it. I'll master the disciplines, claim the crown, and defeat my enemies. I'll build an empire that will last for generations. And I'll show them all what a true wizard can do, asterisk. The night before the winter solstice, Harry summoned his inner circle to the room of requirement. Theo Knott, Blaise Zabini, Daphne Greengrass, and a handful of others gathered in the chamber, their faces lit by the soft glow of enchanted candles. They were the core of the hidden order, the ones who had been with him from the beginning, the ones he trusted most. I've called you here, Harry said, his voice echoing in the chamber, because I need your help. Tomorrow is the winter solstice, and I have to face a challenge that could determine the future of everything I've built. What kind of challenge? Theo asked. The Watchers of the Ancient Covenant, Harry said. They're coming for me. They've decided that I'm a threat to the natural order, and they're going to try to destroy me. I need your help to stop them. The room fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them like a shroud. What do you need us to do? Daphne asked. I need you to protect me, Harry said. I'll be performing a ritual that will claim the crown of the first Potter. But the ritual will leave me vulnerable, and the Watchers will try to take advantage of that. I need you to guard me while I'm performing the ritual. We'll do it, Blaise said without hesitation. We'll stand with you, no matter what. Harry nodded, a surge of gratitude washing over him. Thank you. I know I'm asking a lot. But I promise you, when this is over, the wizarding world will be changed forever. And you'll be part of something that will last for generations. The group dispersed, leaving Harry alone in the room of requirement. He looked at the crown, still resting on its pedestal, its gems pulsing with inner light. Asterisk, tomorrow, everything changes. I'll claim the crown, defeat the Watchers, and begin the final phase of my plan. By the time I'm done, the wizarding world will never be the same, asterisk. He reached out and touched the crown, feeling its magic flow through him, connecting him to the legacy of the Potters, to the power that had been waiting for him for centuries. Asterisk, I'm ready. I've been ready my whole life. And I'm going to win, asterisk. End of chapter 8. Thank you.